real? Did I finally get the ability to go live? Holy crap. The polite version. Oh my god, I don't believe it. Okay. I was just testing it out again because sometimes when I test things have changed. Okay. I did a short. This is definitely not for children because it probably would be horrifying to some children. Welcome to the Barbie edition of the Barbie edition of the Headless Horseman. She's even wearing riding clothes. So when I messaged my sister, I got it wrong. It was probably closer to a foot before Barb said Barbie fell in there by her. Okay. This is how you can tell this is not a... Oh, there goes her cravat. Throw it up there. Anyways, this Barbie, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because back in the day, my sister, who had been annoying me to no end, ended up with me and my little kid foot stomping on the neck part, right here, the neck part of her Barbie, and the head scooted across the floor, at which point you had my sister looking on in horror. She may not... I let the F word slip. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But anyways, she had to have been like maybe 5, 6. I don't remember. My parents were still together, so, and I don't think they split up until after my 8th birthday. Hello, and welcome. This is Briar Rose Cottage, where we're discussing decapitation of Barbies. I am Lady Rosemary, the Moonstone Crone. The cat I tried to show you earlier, that's the crone cat. I'm going to try, this is going to be a very, very short live because I'm not prepared for this. Unless I babble. But I need to go out and play in the mud, fix my yard. For those that follow me regularly know what's going on with that. Anyways, back to the Headless Barbie. So when I was a kid, got mad, Barbie was on the floor because we were not the tidiest of kids, even though my father would have loved to wave a magic wand and we'd have been perfect. But anyways, there goes the train. Choo choo. I stomped on her Barbie. Head goes scooting across the floor. Younger sister staring at me in horror. Me going the child's version of oh my god. Oh, actually, oh my freaking god. And then trying to calm her down so she doesn't go and tell on me. And showing her that if you see, I actually was able to, oh, I wish I had my stand. There. Showing her that you could put Barbie's head on. Barbie just then had no neck. What happened is no neck. Well, this Barbie is this more modern Barbie. Not only has those screwed up joints, which okay makes her bendy and all that other kind of stuff, and possibly easier to get her clothes on, but because her body is fully hard plastic, I may be delusional. I think mine was. But I think the hole was wider. This one's got the piece of the neck so that not only can you do this, which my body, you can do this better. Mine had ours back in the day had that. Oh, it's pushing up inside. Um, can I get her head back on? Uh, well, potentially, if I could get the crap out of her head, I could put her head back on, so she's no longer headless. But this Barbie happened to be sitting on some clutter I haven't had a chance to deal with because my own marbles haven't been living in where they should. Um, fell into Cleo into the garbage can. Oh, there she goes. And I found her standing up with the head in the bottom. There was no garbage in that garbage can at the time. So, how she lost her head, I don't know. Maybe she was already broken when I bought it from the secondhand store. Um, oh, thank you so much to Yings for being a follower. I appreciate that. But now that I know it can go live on non-rainy days, you guys I'll be able to do videos outside of me actually doing something, and we will not have to import from TikTok anymore. So if this is, because the only reason TikTok went from Goofy Place to here, to my videos went from here to the Goofy Place was because technology bailed on me, and I don't have the money to replace technologies. So, yay. So, I don't think modern stuff is as good as the obnoxious crap we had as children in the 70s and 80s, and probably not as good as the toxic crap that was around when my mom was a kid. Um, uh, Born in 1946, and definitely not as solid as the toxic, oh my god, the very toxic, and toys that would be like, you'd have certain parents freaking out over, because my dad was born in 1925, and that would be tin soldiers if they could have afforded them. I think mostly growing up on a farm, there was a lot more to keep him amused than just toys. Yes, yes, we have grown. Welcome. We're what, up to 126 now? Subscribers. It's been a bit, and I understand a whole lot why I am not everybody's cup of tea, or whatever it is you're drinking. You have choice. Tea is wonderful for me. Coffee does horrible things to my body. But anyways, yes. So I'm thinking back in the day, although this is interesting, um, my videos are not made for children. I will stand by that 100%. And this live is definitely, I made sure it says not made for kids, because I am showing a Barbie, but Barbie is decapitated by my cat, because that's this original story. This Barbie fell like a foot into the garbage can, was standing up with her head beside her in the bottom of the garbage can. Oh, her knee's broken too. Back in the day, the only way to break Barbie's knee. See, this one's still good. Okay, but this. Ding, 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 ding. I used to blog on Blogspot. Um, okay, I have to put her down. She's creeping me out with the way she's bending. It's like she could be a contortionist now. It's been pouring today, so I'm not going to take my phone outside with that. But yes, she was grossing me out. Anyways, back in the day, Barbie's arms were permanently stuck like this, um, in this position. Um, I do not have time to join more things. I There's so many things I want to be involved with. There's things I should be involved with. Um, but with my chronic health issues, just trying to keep up with housework and the yard cleanup order and things like that, um, and remembering to be more aware of time and stuff. I just don't have it. So um, I'm going to love being back here, because here no one ever treated my videos and stuff much like a dating site. Now, I'm taking a step back because I think these gentlemen, who are probably very wonderful people, are actually just saying hi. But because you get the twats on there who think they're smarter than everybody and that sometimes this shit's funny, they're ruining it for everybody. I'm hoping you're getting sound, because I had that laying on the blanket. But anyways, oh, and I'll be able to turn the phone this way. I turn it sideways. It got angry at me when I did that. But I'll be able to turn it sideways. So you'll, instead of being, when you watch this on TV and stuff, it will be better. Oh my God, my world just came back. Here what was going on to make funnies about decapitated Barbies. And no, but yeah, that's creepy. That Barbie, I may throw her in a garbage. I was going to keep her, but I've got another one around here someplace. I was going to, like a model for because at one point I was going to be making Barbie clothes for sale, but this year is all about other things and not what I want. So yes, there's the music antidote about me stomping on my sister's Barbie, in the head, going across the floor. So yeah, things we learn as an adult. Yeah, we should have been cleaning our room like my dad said, because that wouldn't have happened. She'd have been under the bed more. That wouldn't have happened. So click forward about 48 years, maybe. About 48 years later, Cleo knocks Barbie into the garbage can about a foot, and her head pops off. Now her knee is goofy, and the hip on that side is goofy. So I'm not sure what our toys were made of back in the 70s and 80s, because that was a 70s Barbie that I managed to pop the head off of. But man, you could use that old school Barbie, and she's not even the oldest school Barbie, the old school Barbie as a weapon. Sometimes we did beat each other with our Barbies, proving the point that boys are not the only ones who, kid boys, are not the only ones who think Barbie should be a sword or a club or something like that. And potentially blowing theories about girls being less aggressive than boys. I think sometimes as we grow up into women, we're just beat into submission, and it's easier just to roll our eyes and go along than it is to actually stand up and say what we really mean, what we're really thinking. Some people don't really want to know what we are thinking. Kind of like those new things where you can put on the floor and your dog or your cat can talk to you. I have enough cats that I know that I really don't want to know their actual opinions on things. So, Thank you, Yings. Um, Part of being the way I grew up in Gen X and the household I grew up in, because I watch a lot of Gen Xers making videos now, and we've discovered the technology that the youngers that have come past us grew up with, because I wonder how awful we would have been back in the day if we'd had access to social media like we did, like they do now, like kids do now, where you've got like 8-year-olds doing how to do skincare videos. 8 years old, I was out playing in the rain and the mud and worrying about my sister hitting me in the head with a freaking weeble wobble. Um, that was a lovely toy back in the 80s that they've modified. Another one they've modified since. The older ones were little, like about the size of Cadbury cream egg. Okay. That should register in the size. Yeah, and about no more than 3 inches tall from top to bottom. It was about that big around at the bottom. Okay. Not solid plastic, but the butt end of it was. My sister threw that across the room and nailed me right there. Right there. Um, and that was before I stomped the head off her Barbie, but wasn't the reason why I stomped the head off her Barbie. But anyways, I'm just thinking that, we had metal slides. I was part of that generation where you learned not to play on that thing when in the middle of summer in the Okanagan of BC, Canada. If you fell off the jungle gym and stuff, you were lucky if you landed in sand. A lot of time it was just dirt. They just put the thing on the school field. A lot of places here had the round ones. So, but anyways, yes. Oh, and I want to say hi to Rased Khan from Bangladesh. Welcome. Wow, I reached that far. That's cool. I know I have followers from all over the place. Social media has given me the ability to have friends all over the place. But part of the reason I am the way I am has to do with this thing called IQ, which they should get rid of, because I've met a lot of people with IQs of 80 that are a heck of a lot smarter than my mother ever was with hers. I think just by her behavior and the way she was potentially around 150. So I have learned, I gained street smarts. See, IQ does not measure street smarts. It measures book smarts. And that's the problem. I've also met other people with extremely high IQ. And who are you people? Because you're not as smart as you think you are. Mine's was 120 28 years ago. Here's a secret. You want to increase your IQ, and I'm not being flippant or smart assery about that. Gen S is known for its smart assery. But who the hell do you think was raising us? Boomers. It was a lot of boomers, and then their parents. I grew up with an odd dynamic because my mom's parents, who were the same age as my dad, one being born in 1925 and the other one being born in 1926, these are the people that raised me, type thing. So these are people born between, I had adults born between the First World War and the Second World War, and then an adult that was born just after 1946, when World War II ended. They're crazy. They're all freaking crazy. Most of which of that generation are dead. They've passed away. Um, Dad and grandma, my maternal grandmother, uh, would be 101 this year. And grandpa, my maternal grandfather, would be 100 years old this year. So, which when I say the more things have changed, the more they stay the same. That's an actual saying. But anyways, back to raising your IQ. It's about gaining knowledge. So if you gain knowledge, you will automatically raise your IQ. So is too low for your personality and who you are. You have option. You're not stuck in severely high people with severely high IQs think you're not stuck in the slow kids class. You don't have to stay there. The more knowledge you gain, the smarter you get. So there are people who have so much street smarts and potentially would have a 120 or something higher IQ, but because they don't test well, because they don't book learn well. They don't learn from books very well. They learn from experiences, etc. They get shoved over here in a place where they don't exist. They shouldn't exist. There are bright minds out there to this day. I've run across them practically my entire adult life, from the time I was actively trying to hold jobs and stuff around 18 years old. I have run across so many adults other people who said they're not intelligent when they are far more intelligent than these people who potentially Mensa are telling us. I didn't do that very well, but I will own it. This is an AI, and there's no editing. But anyways, yeah. So don't listen when people are trying to tell you you're wrong. Go learn, see if they are right, because some people are right, and sometimes we are wrong. And there's lots of times I'm wrong. Like I have always said, with my higher IQ, that I'm not that smart. I knew people who apparently they had the lower IQ and then turned around and they could take an engine out of a car, take it apart, and put it all back together without the book. I know people like that. So who's the smarter person? The person with skills or the person with book linen in the car scenario? So there's the rant. Yeah, I can agree with you, Yings, on that. Overly street smart people also seem to be more exploitative. Exploitive? You said exploitative. Okay. No, they're not. Actually, all of the people that I have met that have had lower IQs are actually less exploitive. So I'm going to back the track up because I actually read the word there. They're not any more exploiting others than other people who seem to be IQ smart. Because if that was true, the world's politics would look different. They would look absolutely different. All having a supremely high IQ does is make you less able to function sociably in a social situation, because you cannot talk with others who are not like yourself. I've spent a lot of time in groups dumbing down my, well, this is horrible to say, but dumbing down my language so people can understand what I'm saying, even though the word I used is exactly the same one as the one I just used so people can understand me. And it's hard. The only thing that works for me and allows me to, there's two things, to function at all with people at all, is my empathy, which a lot of days is not a superpower, and my large vocabulary. I would fail a Mensa test because my math terminologies and stuff, once you get past basic math and into past basic algebra, the A plus B equals C stuff, and get up into calculus and that kind of thing. I'm so stupid. And I'm not being derogatory to myself. I'm a person who can understand fundamentally the ideas of quantum physics, but I can't do A2 plus in brackets Y3 times X bracket over A plus B equals C. I have no concept of how to solve that problem. But you take me and you put me in a group that understands quantum physics, as long as we're talking about it and we don't have to apply the math that goes with quantum physics, I get it. I can sit and explain it to you all, how it makes sense and where it makes sense. My brain is designed to interpret all that. So, and that's why my videos are all kind of ranty and shit, because I am that middle of the road person, but I'm getting tired of groups of people deciding what's right for me and what's right for others. I really wish when I was 19, I was telling a few friends this, that at 19, that I had actually gone off to live me. I would have been happier. I have the mindset to be an advocate because I can see. I see between the lines and hear the things in the cracks. Welcome quantum physics and philosophy. Quantum physics, as far as I can tell, is a lot like math philosophy, except unlike some philosophy, quantum physics actually can be grounded in the provable. You can prove it, whereas philosophy is just something that is put forth as an idea because it's been noticed, and it then is only a theory because often you can't prove it until it actually happens. Yes. And you see, that's the thing. I'm discovering everything is about semantics, about how words are said and things are put forth on in a way that people understand. That's why the saying, the truth is only written by the victors, is so applies to everything, because only the people that we decide are the rightest actually get to write down what the history actually is. And so, yes, there are all different kinds of smart, and all of it should be recognized. It's not, there's a lot that isn't valued. We hold Einstein up as an example of this super brain. Dude didn't graduate high school, but he's applauded as one of the most intelligent people on the planet. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a group of modern day people who invented stuff, um, who did not graduate from high school. They actually left before they graduated, didn't go to college, but they're touted as these wonderfully smart and highly intelligent people without the school certificate. I actually have my grade 12 diploma. It's called a dogwood after the flower of the plant of the tree, the provincial plant symbol for British Columbia in Canada. And that thing is not worth any more than toilet paper I wipe my butt with, because it never took me anywhere. I'm one of the first generations to really recognize that going to college often serves most of us no good. Because what good is there being trained in university and racking up debt when we have a glut, an overabundance of people looking for those jobs already? How smart is that? And these are people with PhDs and stuff who came down and told my generation we needed to go off to university because that was the way to go. Most of my generation, Gen X, which is 1965 to 1980, would have been served better by trade school. Do you know how much a plumber, an electrician, and a carpenter can make per hour? What they're charging? And if you specialize, do you know how much more they can? A plumber to come look at my problem. Okay, here's a real life problem. I got lucky. My neighbor was a gas fitter. Came down and fixed the leaky gas smell problem that was in my basement. Turns out a bolt had come loose. But in the hour of him being down there looking around, it was a 5-minute fix, less than 5-minute fix. Just needed to tighten the bolt to the hot water tank. That potentially, in modern economics and modern day money, would have been potentially, if I was lucky, $50. If I was extremely lucky, it would have been like my neighbor did, come over and say, okay, I found the problem. Don't worry about it. Buy me, don't worry about it. I'm not going to charge you for this little thing because, it got forgotten about and that type of thing. This thing could have cost $50 to $150. That's why there's that joke about it being $50 for the plumber to come and fix the leaky sink, and the very well-meaning, they use men in this one, husband, under this having standing there with his wrench but no plumbing knowledge. This is the cartoon jokes that we grew up with, standing there, this wrench, pouting because the wife had to call the plumber because the husband made it worse, and now they're looking at $500 to $1,000 or more because the husband touched the plumbing. So yes, lean on knowledge, but don't always follow the YouTube videos about how to fix shit, because if somebody hasn't done it right in the first place, you can't fix it anyways. My leaky bathroom tub tap is proof of that. The only way to fix that is to go in through the wall. Because the way things are set up, I can't put the little washer thingy in there to fix the problem. I have to actually tear a wall apart in order to fix the plumbing problem, and probably the plumbing problem is acidic water being not looked after, because there's not a lot you can do unless you want a water softener coming in the house, and that does minerals. Doesn't necessarily fix the acid in the water, I don't think. I don't know how those things work. See, I admit I am dumb when it comes to water softeners. I have a basic idea, but yes, my channel is only good for those who understand sarcasm and flippant. You got to be fluent and flippant. But anyways, because of that, I have a mildew problem in that wall, in that little space between the hallway and the bathroom. My walls are rotted out. So a washer, which a pack of them is no more than $10 modern day Canadian money. Oh, my poor neck. Versus the now potentially couple $100 to fix that, because the way the the little pole thing for the shower is put in the wall by a man who thought he knew better than a plumber. Because I'm pretty sure no plumber has ever set foot in this house ever since this schoolhouse became a house. Because I can tell you, the carpentry in this house suggests nobody actually went to school to learn to be a carpenter. My dad was a farm boy and was born in the 1925. Had more carpentry skills than some of the people who were doing carpentry on this house, this schoolhouse slash house, had. So, but people who like to defend said people look down at me and kind of like to pat me on the head, get all defensive on their side. How dare I slam these people? So I'm the one backing up because I'm the one that's wrong. But no, my dad was not the best carpenter on the planet. Probably in what arrogance he actually had, would never have admitted that he was a professional carpenter. Potentially would have fixed it and said, "You need to go." He would have patched and he would have said, "You need to actually contact a person who knows what they're doing." There we go. Yes, quantum physics is. It's science that proves magic is real, actually. There you go. But yes, quantum physics is more metaphysics than real traditional physics, more close to magic, really. It is, actually, it is. Spot on. Brownie points for you. So if somebody's been telling you you're not so smart, they're full of horseshit, because one for yings. I had a therapist who told me they could not treat me properly because I was metaphysical and he wasn't trained in metaphysics. So he didn't actually know how to help me. This was not in his notes. He actually told me in a session. Does this land in the land of the quote? And I'm going to screw this up. There's more in heaven and earth that than can be fathomed by the human mind, Horatio. And I think it's from a Shakespeare play, but I cannot remember which one because I pick up stuff. My brain likes to just pick up stuff without giving me where it came from. Yeah. Yes, every possibility exists. And this is why I'm having trouble living day to day, because I have people saying this is the only right way. This is the one right way. But since I was a child, with my earliest memories and gleanings from 4 years old and older, um, I can look back and see I was reading at a college level at 4 years old. Um, at 9, I did the run of Harlequin books because I found a bunch from a rummage sale. The one group my mom was associate had to raise funds. So, Girl Guides, we had a big um, rummage sale, and there was a box of these, and they came home with mom, and they were in the basement, and I'd go down at like 8, 9 years old and smuggle books upstairs because nobody was paying attention. I don't know why I was afraid anybody was going to see that. Nobody was paying attention to what I was doing anyway. So at that, I was reading that at 9. By the time I was 12, I had graduated from the retarded of the relationships that's in those things to when I was 11, 12 years old. I found Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and Sherlock Holmes. And then after that, I found the Bobbsey Twins, which is what I should have been reading at 9. But I found it after. Way better than Nancy Drew. I have since. I still haven't read hardly any of Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys. Um, I was, oh my God, I love a good mystery. Oh my God. And Sherlock Holmes. Um, and when I got a crush on him at that age, I was not aware of the broken psyche that the man had and how bad that would be to date him. I just really wanted to be with Sherlock Holmes. Um, they just see things in a different way. I had a boy once in school who could memorize an entire deck of randomly placed cards. Yes, and those people are not allowed to go to Vegas because you get busted. They ban you from the casinos. My tongue does not work because it makes you able to count cards without showing that you can count cards. In grade 5, um, I was shown how to play Math War. Um, and that's usually when you're using a deck of cards to play war with another person, it's whoever's got the highest card takes the card, right? And then at the end, whoever's got the most cards wins the war, right? In Math War, you've got to add the totals up, and whoever comes up with the answer, like if you have a 7 of hearts and a 3 of clubs, that's 10. My brain has the ability to see faster and process faster than other people, and probably because I was diagnosed with ADHD at 27. But Math War was really easy, and on a good day when fibro and everything is not plugging up and making me slow to process stuff, migraines will do this to me. I can go 7 plus 3 is 10, 4 plus 4 is 8. The king is 13, and one, and the ace is either 11, so that's 24, or it's 1 and that's 14. That's how my brain works, just exactly that fast. In high school, well, actually, not even high school, even after those word search puzzles, ones that I watched other people take like 10, 15 minutes to do, I can do them in less than 5. That's how fast my brain processes information. But because I don't have certificates and degrees, I'm not seen as smart and therefore not valued. There is, for years, and this makes me want to cry, for years I have the knowledge of where I should have been living. And I am not in the wrong century. I'm in the wrong era. And I'm the wrong sex. unless you valued priestesses. But I would have been kicked off the steps of Socrates because I was a woman. But that's where I should have been, at the feet of the grandmaster philosophers. That's where I am a mystical philosopher. So, metaphysical philosopher, which goes hand in hand actually very well with each other. The house is, I'm going to say, 80 to 100 years old, because I don't have beyond what my husband was telling me about the house. And here's the creepy thing that I picked up in the house when I started hanging with them and he backed me up on it because he could sense it too. The house, the teacher was a male teacher with dark hair, very tall and slender, mustache. And he had a sister who was shorter than him with red hair. The only difference between this scenario is my husband at the time, because that's when I talk about my hubby and my late hubby. This is who I got the house from. He was not prone to aggressive anger and abusiveness like this teacher that ruled in this house, because this was his kingdom, and the children must shut up. And yeah, Gen X thinks they were to shut up, to be seen and not heard. Try growing up in the 1800s and things like that, because I'm not sure exactly when this was a schoolhouse. This could have been a schoolhouse for 50 years before it ever was an actual house. And definitely in the early 1900s, children were still being told to be seen and not heard. It wasn't until in the later 80s, like when Dr. Spock changed his, and not Spock from Star Trek. There's this American guy with a PhD who was supposed to know all about parenting, and he wrote books and stuff. And I'm trying not to laugh because it's going to come out as a cackle. Anyways, he was all about, in the beginning, if I remember correctly, and I always ask people, if I say something, go look it up, because it'll save me time looking at, because I often do. I say shit and then I go and I'm looking it up afterwards. Did I actually tell the truth about this, or am I just telling what I remember might be the truth? So I often do go looking things up, because the only way to get smarter is to get knowledge, and then knowledge is power. So when the world goes to hell in a handbasket, which is something I picked up from childhood, is a saying I picked up from childhood. The world goes to hell in a handbasket. The only people who are going to be considered smart are those who have the skills before we gave everything up to computers and robots and other machines to do before us. And it's supposed to make life easier, and yet it put people out of work and made their lives harder. And it's not my age that makes it hard to go through, figure out how my phone works. It's the amount of crap that's now on my phone that, unless I had a degree or took it to somebody who had a degree in how to get this out of my phone, it lives in my phone. I have stuff in my phone I don't know if I should get rid of, because we all know back in the day what happened when you touched anything that was involved with the basic running of Windows or a computer's software operating materials. So you'd get these things up. Windows 32 EXE executive, which means executive, is doing this and this and this. This is why my generation fears the blue screen of death, because that meant your computer was toast. That blue screen of death was death. Yeah. So when our phones don't work, and I follow certain Gen Xers who post on Facebook because they're funny. But they bring up videos of younger generations, and the one guy said he couldn't have been more than, if he was 20, oh my God, you know, I think he was probably like 18, 19, because he had that arrogance of teenage boys who think they're adult men. Anyways, saying to basically Gen X had to grow up and learn how to use our iPhones. Anyone who's got smarts, and I'm actually bashing now, has smarts knows you don't own an iPhone. Because why would you pay for apps when you don't have to? And the Apple iPhone is I've had people who know electronics going, don't buy that phone. Don't buy that phone. It's some of the worst technology on the planet. And yet Apple, when you first were using the Mac, was so user-friendly and above whatever Microsoft was putting out. I don't know why they felt the need to catch up with Microsoft. Just go do your own thing. Because for a while there, it was the best software, especially when you're doing creative endeavors. So, anyways, what's the time on here? I'm almost an hour of just rambles. But anyways, he was slamming my generation for not knowing how we need to go and learn our phones and get an iPhone. And I'm like, God, you're stupid. Because Android, I've always had Android phones. I can get a cheap Android phone that works just fine for what I need to do, except for the one thing I would love to be able to do now, as it's my phone, my house, my rules. It's the beautiful thing of what I call the boom Xers. That's 1965, beginning of okay, that's 1960, which we're wrapping up. Boomers going to 1965 to 1975 are boom Xers. And that melamine foam that you could take in frustration, and I'm going to show the hand, and you were so mad at somebody frustrated with the person on the other end of the phone that was supposed to help you with your whatever it was you needed fixed, and they would say, or your boyfriend or girlfriend was annoying, you could go in it and go bang, 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 over and over on the counter. Sorry, Simon. But Mummy had to do that. It's a great release. Over and over, you could look at the phone and say, fine, goodbye, I'm done with you. Bang, 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 with a ding. Because some of us, they were, before they attached it to the wall and made it so that we couldn't run away when we talked to our friends on the phone. Type thing. You don't know. You 8-year-old, you 55-year-old 8-year-olds don't know. The teenagers and the 20-somethings do not know what real freedom and what real oppression looks like. You can tell in their behavior, how they say things, and how they run their politics. Freedom is not a man standing up there telling you or a woman, as the case might be, telling you their way of doing things is the rightest way of doing things when the rest of the world is going, what? Huh? What? It's not. Freedom is being locked in a cage for the vast majority of your life because you said something somebody didn't like, but you can look out through the bars in your window and go, there's blue sky today, and life is wonderful. That's freedom. History check, Nelson Mandela, South Africa. I'm not so sure Gandhi was right with the whole starving yourself to death to gain freedoms. I'm not so sure. I like food way too much. My poor hobbit soul just is going, no! Cannot. So, anyways, yes. Me raised by older people who grew up through their generations, who had to grow up through the dirty 30s and then war and then what felt like financial freedom and all that, which was actually economic suicide with credit cards, credit, and all that other kind of thing. And the softness of the 50s that hit the 60s and that's really slammed against the later 60s that then pushed into the 70s. Grandpa didn't die till 1995. And my dad didn't die till in early 2000s. Mom waited till 2010. Grandma, I was 6 years old, and at that point knew I was in trouble the day I came home from school. That's my memory of Grandma dying and being left with those three to raise me. Mom, Grandpa, Mom and her dad and my dad. At 6 years old, I came home, and I knew my world as I know it was over. Fade to black. So yes, I'm jaded. In a way, most Gen Xers are not jaded. But yes, you just, and if you want to know what I'm talking about, Billy Joel did a really good song late 80s. I think very late 80s at the very least. It was like 89-ish type thing. We Didn't Start the Fire. And I suggest you go listen to that one because it's very educational. He does history via music. And I really suggest listening to that song, especially if you are born after 2010, because it may not have been around enough for you, but you should really listen to that. Go and listen to that song. American Woman is not a rally cry anthem song for Canadians against U.S. politics. The U.S. itself, like it's not. It's more of the society at that time, and that song came out in the late 60s, early 70s, by the Guess Who, great Canadian band. Love Burton Cummings. He ended up being the lead singer. But yes, American Woman, sparkle someone else's eyes is one of the lines in that video. And that's basically talking about the U.S. of America, because as a North American, I am actually American. Canada, the United States, and Mexico we're all Americans, but we do not stand under one God, under the flag of the great propaganda that a lot of poor United States people have been led is the right and the reality it's not. So I have rambled and wandered, and I can't even remember now where I started. So, yes, actually, formal education has been on the way out. It's been tried to be pushed out since women have been trying to go to university and higher education. If you go through history, um, if you're in the United States, you'll have to go down the rabbit hole because you aren't seeing, and there's a lot of comedians from elsewhere who point this out, and I watch American audiences when I'm watching this, and they're laughing and they're saying, but they're not really realizing that they're being poked at to see who in the audience actually knows the history and who doesn't. And that's because your government has always been isolationist, to keep the imperial powers at bay so that we can stand for the democracy that the original founding fathers, who came from other countries. I don't really think any of them were born in the United States. They were citizens of other countries who fought back against supposed tyranny. And here in Canada, we part of this big thing called a Commonwealth, where we still recognize that he's the king now. I have to get caught up in my own history because it was Queen Elizabeth my entire childhood, and then just in the last couple of years now we have a king again. So go down the historical rabbit hole, because you will see things that happened in ancient Roman stuff are happening in your country down south in the United States of North America. This is why Canadians get so freaking mad when you say, "Oh, you're American," because that word has been associated with them and their politics for so long that we're like the middle child of the world, I'm thinking, where we are expected to behave like an adult. And I wonder how many middle children can back me up on this. We're expected to behave like adults and help. But you're not at the same time allowed to be a kid in the middle. You have to. The dynamic of middle children is insane, and when you're a middle child that's born into, you're the middle child of a second family. You're not a middle child anymore. I'm the second youngest of my dad's two families. So that's why the thought wasn't working for me. I was losing the track on that thought. Because, oh my God, I got to come out and say who I am, because who I really am in awakening. Because that's the best defense in an offense. So anyways, yes, do a historical deep dive. And I'm sorry if you have to go, the rabbit hole goes on and on and on and on. But go do it, because knowledge is power. Okay. My house looks great for an 80-year-old house. No, you are seeing the little bits that I'm showing. There's nothing great about this. The a leaky roof I've got upstairs that's warping the plywood that was underneath the probably asbestos based linoleum that got ripped up, because none of us 70s babies who were doing it realized that it was asbestos when we were ripping up. So no masks, no safety gear, no nothing, just ripping it up, putting pieces in the garbage bag and throwing it off the dump because we didn't know. Because the powers that be, the powers in, didn't tell my late husband that what the house was actually made with. So the house is hanging on by a thread. That is the truth. That is the reality. And this stuff here on the walls, that's 1970s paneling. 1970s paneling that when burns, when it's burnt, goes up like a Roman candle. Like it wicks once it catches, whoof, because of the glue in it, and because it's basically cardboard. Flame and heat and all sorts of stuff. Oh, shall we talk about the 1980s? Being flippant here, the 1980s office carpet. What year is it? Yes, wooden houses, if they are built properly, evidenced by Victorian and Tudor built houses, still standing. But there, they need the proper love. It's not, they're, if a house is built properly and with the right knowledge and the right care, all houses, unless they're built in the wrong places, like don't build an adobe house in a damp area, you're just asking for trouble. Do build a straw bale house covered in plaster with a steel roof in a fire-prone area, because plaster will help keep fire away, and straw bales, if they are done properly, are so tight they smolder but they don't burn. And a tin roof, a metal roof, we say tin roofs, they're probably just steel roofs, because if I'm not mistaken, tin has lead in it, and last time I checked, lead was bad for you. And if I had all the money in the world, or money was no object, there would be a metal roof going on my house, possibly in a very light color, not so great in winter time. People would question that, but on the south side here, where I'm sort of southwest, oh my God, it just heat and heat and heat. Yes, to answer your question, wooden houses do last that long, because back in the Victorian and the Tudor times, unless you were completely corrupt, the builder, most people built their own houses, and they built it as this was the house I was going to live in, I was going to raise my children in, and potentially some of my children, if they survive, will raise their children, and this is going to be something I hand down. So built very sturdy, very strong, may need some updating and stuff like that, but houses were not built like cell phones, which is a backhanded way to say disposable. There wasn't my first home and then potentially a second home or the forever home. There was, this home I got was my forever home, because there was an acceptance by people that this is as far as I was going to get. It was okay because it's the actual reality, not a delusion, and I'm okay with that. We will work with this, but we can, excuse me, we can work with that. So there are a lot of houses that were built after the 1950s that are falling down because that was the economic climate. Everybody thinks debt we've all been taught that debt is this good thing that we should have. But what part of $9.4 billion worth of debt, there's your words, there's the vocabulary, deficit also means debt, suggests to anybody in Alberta that separation is a good thing. We can't pay our bills now. So what is going to happen when the rest of Canada says, we're cutting you off at the ankles, never mind the knees. We're going to cut you off the ankles. We're not paying for policing, military, hospital, healthcare, your senior citizens who were getting money from us. Sorry, I know you've worked your entire life for your your Canadian pension plan and old age security, but you're in another country now. Education, highways, firefighting, taxes. Where is all separatists? Please educate me on where all of this is supposed to, all this money that we can't even now, as part of Canada, pay is supposed to be coming. Where is my $700 plus sometimes 25? It's been a bad June. That I get from playing a game on my couple of apps on my phone. That if I'm really lucky, I get $5+ a month, a week for, and that will give me about $25 a month extra on my income. Who's paying for that? Because the two main ones, my survivor benefits is the little bit that my husband in his short life, my late husband, was able to work and contribute to the Canada pension plan, and they pay out part of that as survivor benefits, but it's a subsection. So any CPP that is it's his CPP, I guess, is what I'm getting. And when I get to retirement age and I can collect, which I think is 1960, it is, pardon me, is 60 years old or 62 years old or something. So I got about 5-7 years to wait to get CPP. Anyways, I will get mine. So the federal government has made this wonderful cushies. So I get about $500 so it's not $489.50. It's $499.90 or something. They actually raised it. I got a significant raise in it. And then the federal government decided that people who were eligible for the disability tax credit, so if you have things like diabetes or arthritis, because you're paying out extra things, it's not just for people like in traditional disabled mode, like being in a wheelchair or mental deficits or things like that. That disability tax credit covers a ton of things, and if you have things like arthritis and other things, if you're in Canada, you really should check this out, because at tax time it can lower your taxes that you have to pay significantly. And why wouldn't you? Rich people use this kind of stuff all the time. And it's there. If you go looking, you ask questions when you're talking to your tax person. You potentially, if they're not corrupt, will find you all sorts of stuff. So you do not have to pay taxes. And I'm so glad I'm not US, because your tax system is screwy. If you get audited up here, although we have got too much American TV, there is no worry about going to jail if you screw up your taxes. Crap, they had to finally tell me just to stop. Please fill out this forms or phone on the phone and just quit sending us the front page, the second page, and the last page with some of the information from the second page, plus my banking information for direct deposit of refunds into my bank account, plus my signature and phone number on the bottom. And here's my paperwork, because when you're on things like welfare or provincial disability, your money goes in, and because it's not taxable, it comes out. So you end up with zero on the final page with whatever if you might be. I was entitled to a little bit of a refund every year, but they just did it. I couldn't figure out why I was doing someone else's job, because somebody in the tax offices has to it's not against the law in Canada to not fill out your taxes properly. They just want you to fill out your taxes. Somebody actually sits, unless they've changed things, there's a person that your filed income taxes goes to, and they sit and fill it out, make sure you have actually filled it out right. Your basics, see if you've missed a basic deduction based on all the paperwork you've filled in. I've had so many people fill out their income tax and get refunds they didn't think they were going to get, because they didn't realize they were entitled to something, so they didn't claim it. But then the tax person, the Revenue Canada person, we call them RevCan, up here, caught it and then adjusted their income tax and then had them sent money for a refund or pay less. It came off their total tax amount. So taxes are not complicated in Canada. Good reasons to do your taxes: rebates. Now you're on record to receive rebates. There's a rebate coming out that came out recently from the federal government regarding groceries and things like that, based on the fact that the price of gas is too high. I know somebody who didn't do their taxes, hasn't done the taxes in forever, has lost out on all the goods and service tax rebates, climate change rebates, and this latest grocery rebate, because he keeps forgetting to put his tax stuff where it should go, in a safe place. And his is simple. He gets welfare. It goes in, comes out, boop. And I told him for years, do your taxes this way. Send your paper, your T5007, with your tax. Front page, back, second page, last page. And then send this. Well, no, and then he forget about it. So he also knows that I poke about him, and I have always, but I don't talk to him about stuff. I will remind him, it's tax time. Where is your thing? Fill it out. He hasn't done taxes in like over 10 years, but is so afraid that if he just files this tax, he's going to get audited instead of what would happen, which is they will file he gets for this, and then he'd have time to go and get the rest of his income tax things all corralled, because those things, his, are all stored in the records for the provincial welfare office. So, and so what is the price of having money? Bigger income tax forms to fill out. And confusion. Oh, that song, Land of Confusion by Genesis, is sitting in my brain. It came out in 1986, apparently. And there's a lyric in it that says that we'll fix everything. But Gen X, okay, so 1986 is technically not my generation's. This is millennials. A song that was written at a millennial time in history by people who I think were boomers. But Genesis was a big band for Gen X. Really good music. I love the music. So let's go back to this. My sister is pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. Second time it's happened. My wife is going to be mad. Mr. Sparky, you are a filthy sarcastic person. But I love your sarcasm. It just flown it right in there. We're keeping things light. So, way to go, Mr. Sparky. Yes, iPhone after Android is like a cage. And yes, and in so many ways, Mac, I will say was, because I don't know why there was a need. Maybe Bill Gates just stepped that far away from running things. Mind you, I think dude is He'd be at least 10 years older than me. So he's definitely a boomer, a bang on boomer. So I think this is why Gen X is, and the boomers that fall into that boom X, what I'm calling boom X, are like, shh, to Gen Y and Z, and what we have Gen A now. We're telling them, shut up. Your life was not better. We are reminiscing about our lives in these videos, not to say we were better, but we're actually wishing things would go back to a time where children could run around Hell's Half Acre, and we often came home. Not every one of us came home, but it was millennials playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle in actual storms, drain pipe things, and getting themselves. I remember that on the news. So check your history. What happened to Gen Xers? Some of us, most of us managed to play Superman without going on top of the roof and jumping, because we just knew from falling out of trees that gravity works. Every so often you'd get on the news, some kid jumping off the roof trying to be Superman. Oh, and millennials, thank you for Jackass. If you want to blame some of the stupidity, was it? Yeah, because they came out in the 90s, because that's a PS2 game. I like that game. The part of the Jackass game that I really like was loading Johnny Knoxville up into a slingshot and launching him over the yard next door onto the highway, where he could get hit by cars. That was so fun. Or rolling him down a hill so he hit, and making sure he hit every boulder on his way down. Oh, that's a happy memory. The day I decided to go, what would that have been? 1982, 83? I finally got brave enough to go up to the top, the road above, where the highest point on the sledding hill in Quesnel sat. Rain makes me reminiscent. And I got on my crazy carpet, which was this, for those that don't know, was a piece of plastic that was thickish, but not that thick. And you slide down and go. Well, this hill, there was a jump. And I'd always done the mathematics, and in those videos where people have access and can understand computer graphics for things, this is that math thing, and that fax machine sound is going on right here. That screech, and then you get the hypotenuse is the square of the right angle times yada 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 yada. When I saw kids go off that jump, and not always the older kids, sometimes it was kids younger than me going off there going woohoo on their crazy carpets, their sleds and saucers and things like that. We must have been poor because we had plastic saucers, not metal saucers, in that neighborhood. Anyways, I decided I'm be brave. And I hauled my little butt up there, because I'd have been like 12, 13. I think I was 12. Went all the way up to the top of the hill and slid down on my crazy carpet on my stomach. So I was at least pointed in the right direction. Hit that jump, found flight. It was amazing. Lost my crazy carpet. Fell 3-4 feet to the ground. Halfway down the other hill. Rolling till I hit the small boulder at the bottom. that was about 2 feet high by about 2 feet wide. And then a thump against that, crazy carpets going, and the kids at the bottom were watching for cars because that hill was at the end of a dead end street. Um, I think it went onto an alley. If you were able to cross over, you went across the road, um, which was wide enough for parking on both sides and a car to move maybe between. And then down the alley, there was nothing there. And hockey rules applied here. Kids at the bottom kept watch for the other kids coming down the hill, and they would yell "car" like they do in hockey when you're playing street hockey. So everybody can get off. It allowed the kids coming down the hill to bail because it was better if your crazy carpet or your sled went under the car. We just had this instinct that we knew that what certain things would cause death, and in the beauty of it, in our childhood, we did it anyways because the thrill was there. You don't get that same kind of thrill from I've seen with kids, so they're watching social media or playing video games. There's a thrill in video games, but it's not the same as experiencing flight, even if it is only 3 feet above the ground. That was so freaking amazing. I think I lost my toque along there somewhere. That's what Canadians, especially the older generation, used to call beanies. Mine had a big white pom pom on top. But yes. And discovering that you didn't need a sled when you wore a nylon snowsuit, because if yours was a onesie, you were the sled. Speaking about quantum physics, you were the sled. So some of us were, we would just get speed up, and then the hills would get icy from on it, and you could just swish down, slide down the hill. Hey, Bastian. Slide down the hill and just go forever. Like, oh my God. I am, though, in agreement with the amount of kids that started going missing in the later 80s, when Dr. Spock, going back to Dr. Spock, was who had gone from spoil the kid, spare the rod, spoil the kid, to being a big advocate for not spanking as a form of um, children's rights. And I agree with that. Don't beat your kids. I say that at cats, don't make me beat you. I don't actually beat them. They might get a swat, usually on the butt, unless the paw is the offensive party. But I don't believe in hitting. My parents never raised me with hitting. Threats of hitting, but not actual hitting. That's a lot why Gen Xers and Boom Xers specifically are messed up, because there was a lot of do as I say and not as I do, because if you do, holy hell will rain upon your personage. And for some reason, we just believe tone of voice, even though parents hadn't actually done things. There was just something about my mom saying, if you embarrass me, it must have been the look. It must have been that look that was like lasers. Because my mom, as I got older, my mom was shorter than I am. I'm like 5'3". She was 5'1" when she passed away. But anyways, and the finger, as we were told before we went to the grocery store, if you embarrass me in the store, I will drop your pants and spank you bare bottom in front of everybody. There was none of this. I've had Gen X friends tell me they threatened to take them in another room or whatever. No, this was bare bottom in front of everybody. And because I was afraid that mortification as a child, who, in 6 and 7 and 8, and then like a little bit, the act of being naked in front of strangers made sure I behaved myself. There's no asking a toys. Do not disturb this person who has voiced your complete demise to you at home or in the car before you even get in the building. That this is the consequences of your actions. So, oh, 18%. So, yes, I'm going to have to wrap this up. But okay. Uh yes, Mr. Sparky, thank you for the sarcastic poem where in all of my stuff I finally got what you were saying. I had a moment where I wasn't paying attention. And yes, if I was your wife, I would be mad too. Uh, yeah, I think we are because you get trapped between the and it is politics and the dynamics of older siblings and younger siblings because especially as a girl, I was expected to behave like this adult person that I wasn't and make sure and older children, oh my god, the only freedom they had was when they went out of the house away for hours with their friends because they were boys and girls were expected to take care of the younger ones. That was part of the dynamic. We all took care of each other in the house. Chores, we didn't get paid for chores because we weren't rich. I grew up on welfare a lot. Um, so there was like all of this going on. If you came home and your younger sibling was injured or missing, don't come home because I faced firing squad when I got home, and it wasn't a physical one, it was a verbal one. The day that I got mad because I was in grade 4, so she'd been about 6.5 years old. I got mad because I had to take her to my friend's house to go play the. I very rarely went to people's houses, to friends' houses. I didn't have that dynamic with my friends, probably because I was different than a lot of the other kids around, and I didn't have a lot of social circle except my siblings. But this is a 6.5-year-old who should know how to tie her own freaking shoes. Threw a hissy fit when I was already mad because I had to take her with my poor older brother. Oh my god. But at 6.5 years old, I may not have been doing it beautifully, but I could tie my freaking shoes. She didn't tie her shoes. She wouldn't. She wanted me to tie her shoes. She was the youngest of all of us, and she wanted me. And I'm like, no. So instead of just wearing her shoes home, I think it took us an hour to walk home. She was walking barefoot, no socks. She didn't even have her socks on. And she had busted up the skin on her toe and she was bleeding by the time she got home. But did she get in trouble for not putting her shoes on at least? For walking barefoot home? No, I caught it because I was the older sibling who should have made sure that I had her shoes were on. A 6.5-year-old should have had her shoes on and tied properly. And yet, as I got as a teenager and stuff, mom looked at me and my older brother looked at me and told me I tied my shoes funny. But I've been tying my shoes this way since I learned how to tie shoes to this pre-adulthood. And you're now telling me I tie my shoes funny? This is the way you showed me. So probably what happened was I was able to process information of them doing it in front of me, which would have been upside down. So I tied my shoes that way. So I just tell people don't watch me tie my shoes because apparently I do it wrong, funny, and I'm strange. Oh, there's another good song. The Doors, People Are Strange. Yeah. Oh, another good song, 21 Pilots. Oh crap, what's it called? Um, it's a couple of 20-somethings who ran into the wall of gotta wake up and make money. What is that song called? I hate when I forget stuff. Thanks, migraines and fibro. Whee! Anyways, what out here? No brick and concrete houses where you live. Um, yeah, we have all sorts of brick and concrete buildings. Um, I, you're good because you didn't ask about igloos. There's going to be parts of this summer that if people live in igloos, but um, that's the problem with social media. That because in over an hour and a half, we have wandered this whole area, and I can't be clear because in answering questions, we're bouncing back and forth. And yeah, like the hardware stores and stuff. But people here generally, if you're in a house, um, or an apartment building, it's all, you can definitely tell the houses that are from when 1950s and onwards up, because you can tell from the way they're built, the style of the house, and that will tell you what materials the houses are built from. So yeah, go take a walk in your neighborhood. I hope, Yings, you live in someplace better than a concrete jungle, because that's awful. No wonder you like my gardening videos if you do, because I have lots of green. I will fight for your green, your right to see green. And that's one of the things that I'm standing on here, in the rightness of leave me alone. This is my yard, my landscaping, is because I share with you guys on here. I have a following, short following, and the one on TikTok is bigger. I'm not sure why some of the people are following me over there, but they do. But videos are going to be different now because of the live, and that's one of the things. No. If you have a good living all across the country here, or wherever you go, stay working. Um, if you cannot, in the province of Alberta, round up with dietary needs or other special needs on regular welfare, I'm not talking about disability, which is actually disappearing from the provincial level. They call it, but it's not. That social network, the only thing, my one friend gets 980, I think. I think that's what I was making. Like, I'm thinking, enter fax machine noise. Um, I was on welfare before I met Kirk, before I moved in with Kirk, right before we got married. And then lost money, and they thought I had taken money I wasn't supposed to have, so they took it back. So the second month of our living together pre-marriage, we owed about $1,200 back to the provincial welfare office because I they had changed some things. Hello, Bastian. And so therefore I owed them an entire month's worth of income that they had given me. But this one friend gets less than $1,000 a month to live on, but he also is getting prescriptions and other things that they pay. But it's definitely not a living wage. So if you've got a job, even if it's a miserable job at McDonald's and can work, keep the damn thing as long as your boss isn't a complete dick. Um, excuse me, because no job has the right to treat you less than, and not as and you should be treated with respect and as a person if this is how you behave at work. I have worked with so many people who don't and then can't understand why they got fired. And I'm getting so tired of, oh, that's too bad. And I'm thinking, you're a moron, but oh. Because my natural tendency is to be blunt and with the side of obnoxious arrogance. But I was teased a lot as a child by parents and things like that. So, anyways, so yeah, no, Canada is way in the social, uh, the financial reality. What am I trying to say? Is better in the helping its population try to survive financially than the United States, but we suck ass compared to other European countries where they pay more taxes but can just walk into the hospital, get hospital care, and walk out with prescription in hand. We're not that good yet. I think that might be Sweden. I'm not 100% sure anymore, but there are countries in Europe where they work less, get paid more money and more time off, and live lifestyles where they don't have to chase after the dollar, um, because as a country they've chose not to, and they just live different lifestyles. Because, like, what is this insanity of working in 32-degree Fahrenheit, 32-degree Celsius, which is almost 100, about not quite 95, I don't think, Fahrenheit. But we go force people to go build buildings and other sort of jobs. Like if you work in a gas station that has propane in it and you got to fill up a truck that takes propane, this is not like the nice days of the gas station where you put the hose in the thingy, put it on click, like put it on the hooky thing so it just flowed, and then you went and stood in the shade that you were dying in anyways, and then when you heard click, you went back and took it out and put it on, because you never, in hot weather, do not overfill your gas tank because the pressure in there can blow gas back out. But no, when you're filling propane, you are you're in the sunshine, holding the thing until the gauge shows you to stop, which is usually a little bit of propane going pss, pss, pss. I don't know how it works on cars. I just know how it used to work when I was working at the one gas station. I have no love for propane. Hate natural gas with a passion. Don't like the bomb in the house. But anyway. So yes, you, the Canadian pension plan, it, for a lot of people, gets supplemented by the old age security. So that should tell you you've spent how many years of your life? We'll say 20. We'll be kind and say 20. And you're now retired at 65. And you want to collect your CPP. You, you had better have other pensions because it's the lifestyle we've all decided we needed today. It will not support it at all. It's equivalent to welfare wages. If it weren't for the old age security, a lot of people on CPP could not afford to live. They could afford to survive if rents were realistic, if groceries were realistic, if we were not taught that being in debt was realistic. So, and hello to Queen's Crafty Bridget. Oh, Queen's Crafts by Bridget. Are you a fellow YouTuber as well? Welcome. I'm at 12% on my phone, so, and at a minute 45. 32 is actually great where I live. I am more scared of snow. Here's the thing about heat versus cold. Unless the electric company decides you owe them too much money and then they put a fancy meter on it that every time the furnace pops on, it blows the power. Yay! Anyways, there is a point with too much heat where 32 and above is more deadly than minus 60, which we can get a little further up. It has been minus 54 here where I live in Alberta, but mostly if you go towards the territories, you can get, my mom in the Yukon when we were there when I was a little kid, little babies, experienced like minus 60. And there is a point after about minus 40 where cold is just cold. But plus 32, which if it's multiplied by 3 and add 5 or something like that, I think is how you get the Fahrenheit. But if you just multiply by 3, that's 96 degrees Fahrenheit to begin with. For quick and easy math. When it's that hot, without being able to afford air conditioner, and if you can't get a good cross breeze like I can sometimes get, for those on antidepressants, and here's a warning for summer, antidepressants can kill you in the summer if your body gets too hot. You will die. There was a warning that came out in the Okanagan in BC when a guy actually had that happen. He passed out on the sidewalk and died before anybody could save him, and he was on like Prozac or something. Prozac? Oh my god, because this is like 20 plus years ago when that came out. So, but that sticks with you. Minus 40 if the electric company isn't turning off your furnace. So right now I could not run air conditioner, and I'm on the cusp today with the fan running upstairs where I might not be able to. Okay, so this is important. So I'm getting up, and where is my charge cord? Oh, it's over here. Yay! And one of the bonuses of people who don't take care that I live with, from people who did not update this house before they gave it to their son, is I'm sitting with improper wiring in here. But anyways, when it's really, really cold and I can afford electricity, in the summer I can run air conditioning, cool, but you can't go outside because your body doesn't adjust properly to going from cold to heat. You will, I've heard people getting colds and flu-like symptoms and all that kind of stuff because the temperatures between the two. You have to be careful what you eat. Milk, dairy products can sometimes be the worst thing you're eating outside of like hard cheese. That ice cream that you are enjoying from McDonald's, which is not actually ice cream, it's ice milk, it's frozen milk, can sit in your stomach and cause all sorts of problems. my brother went to Air Cadets camp in this province. While he lives else in another province. But while he was in Air Cadets, he had a chance to go to one of the bases here in Alberta, and chose not to have cereal that day. He had the eggs and the sausage and toast, or eggs and bacon and toast, and potentially maybe a coffee or something, and some juice. One kid. There was more of them, but this poor kid, we're talking teenagers, because you have to be at least 13 to join cadets, military cadets in this country, chose to have cereal. And I took to the heart because my brother came home and he told me about this. He had cereal, went out on parade. Parade is when everybody lines up and the higher ups go and watch you salute and stuff. That's military parade. And as they were having the higher ups talking and stuff, who probably had toast, coffee, eggs, sausage or bacon, maybe some pan-fried potatoes, because they learned. My brother watched this kid from his side do this. The kid that had cereal start swaying, and then all of a sudden, backwards onto concrete, because they were in the parades are held on the concrete areas like parking lots used to be before they were all paved over. It might have even been tarmac, which is the black stuff. In plus 32 degrees of weather, which Alberta can have, because the bottom half of the province and up to the Rockies, where Banff is open fields. Okay, where it's prairies, plains. It's plains. You're standing on that in full uniform that you're supposed to be wearing as a cadet. The dairy in his stomach curdled and just about killed him. Heat, you can't get away from. You have to eat all the time. You have to make sure you have food in it. I have a friend who happens to be on an antidepressant, but doesn't eat properly. He eats what he's always eaten from the time he was a teenager and making choices about his own diet, and then has nothing but problems with heat exhaustion. I'm having problems with UV now. I spent most of my time out front of the house in the shade, but just that little bit, I can feel it in my skin. Of being outside, I've got tender, my skin is, okay, sorry about that. We're reconnecting. But anyways, with that extreme heat, when we're talking about extreme heats, about that. In this extreme cold, when we're sitting up here, everybody's like, "Oh, I can't deal with with 45 minus 42 Celsius. Like, how do you do minus 30?" When I was younger, I was not too much younger. That we're talking like about 10 years ago. Minus 32 outside, walking around. No mittens, no hat. Because with the winter coat and all the layers I had on, this was the only way to release heat, because I would break out sweating and it'd be like, it might as well have been July, August, going like this. This was before my Renaults really kicked in, and has been trying to run my life. You can always turn up the heat, and if you go outside, you'll be so glad to go back inside. There doesn't seem to be that same thing with heating your house as with cooling yourself with air conditioning. There's no antidepressant antidepressant warnings that go with extreme colds. I've never seen one. Maybe there is. Feel free to comment if I say stuff and you don't think what I've said, you actually have knowledge about this, so that I could go check it out and go, huh, okay, yeah, no, I was wrong. Okay? But in the winter, this winter, everybody is afraid of. We generally stay inside except for the crazies of it, the ones that are seen as crazy. Oh my God, I love a good snow and it's so quiet. The world goes in their homes, and the world for the empath gets quiet. Pouring rain on a metal roof is one of the best things in the world. Everybody says, oh, it's so noisy. No, it's the silence. There's a silence for people with empath that goes there. But anyways, when it's cold, you put on more clothes. Grab your blankets, your heat pad or your electric blankets. You cuddle with your people if they're affectionate, your cats, your dogs, your bunny. You make sure your windows are sealed properly. You pull your curtains or your drapes or blinds. Topic for another day. But you seal yourself in your cocoon, and life is fine and wonderful. You know, you like warm, unless you are homeless and living in a tent or cardboard box. And my heart goes out to those people who have not chosen that lifestyle. Misnomer about igloos. The reason why Inuit, indigenous people that live that far up in the cold, those places are actually warmer, can be warmer. This is funny. An igloo, properly built, can actually be warmer than a modern day home. You just pile all the snow up. You don't have to worry about the snow melting and the water rotting the foundation of your home in the spring. But they can be warmer. I've read things about where the indigenous sleep their partners, however, their marriage before, we're talking before Christians came over, in furs and pelts, wrap themselves up naked and curled up with their partner. They're still all here, y'all. No modern fine features, just a snow house and the furs and pelts they collected from the animals they ate and used for other things. I learned all this in school and in high school and in my early 20s. And people wonder why when they say, oh yeah, this is wonderful, and I go, pfft. It wasn't broken. They were fine. We're the ones that told them it wasn't, and then tried to show them how to fix it. So I take extreme cold over extreme heat. I'll take my minus 32, especially once I fix things with the electric company. I'll take my minus 32 because I can get away from it. In that extreme heat, even with an air conditioner, can't get away from it. Because to cycle the entire house, to change things for the entire house, would be thousands of dollars. Hence, learning things about airflow. Even on hot days so far, I haven't run a fan. The only fan that's running is the one that's drying in the floor, helping to keep the floor upstairs dry, because I have a hole in my roof. That's what's causing leaking. Caused by the fact that somebody decided that shingles that can be blown off because the house faces southwest and northeast, and we get a lot of wind from the northeast. It hits my shingles, goes right up underneath the shingles, and rips them off. And would be brand new ones put on the year before. So back to my house, my rules, my way of wanting to do things. I'm not always right. I didn't quite get the foamy crap that I put up there to block the leaking to work properly, but chemical product probably developed by a man telling me whose gender fluid has male personality and female personality, because all they can see is woman, that I'm wrong. Man, if I could go up and stick moss in those little holes and have them be happy and grow right now, right here in this minute of no money, I would do that. If I wouldn't have to chase after the bit of water, the water on the floor, which is what, not even a quarter of an inch thick in most spots. I would do it. Quick, it's easy, it's free. I've got some in my yard. So yes, 32 above for this fair-haired child with Renault's that has sucked all the color out of my skin. I'm hot. I'm actually feeling heat from the talking and stuff and the humidity here. I'm actually hot. I'm too hot. And yes, I should take my sweater off, but then I'll freeze to death because I've been sweating and it's moist and it's keeping the cool in the house. And so anyways, and then that will trigger the arthritis in between my shoulder blades. And then I'll be in excruciating pain. $700 a month. Necessity, here's another one. Necessity is the mother of invention. Problem solver, I figure it out. Or accept that I can't do anything with this right now. So, if it gets fixed, it gets fixed. I'm just not going to worry about it because there's nothing I can do. It's not that I'm being oblivious to the rot and destruction that this can cause. It's just that I can't do anything about it now. But when it's extremely cold upstairs, and I had frost on the roofing nails that were coming through because insulation was taken down, because the new insulation was supposed to go up. Then husbands get really sick and then they die, and then trying to find somebody who has time and ability to come help you, and then realizing it was better you didn't. Yes, I'm flippant. I'm an angry white woman staring down in retirement, wishing my hair would go white and be done with it, with aches and pains and pain most people couldn't wrap their brains around. Oh, and with my arthritis, no freedom in plus 32. It might as well be minus 32 out, because the pressure of that heat sets off my arthritis. Because now we're going to get thunderstorms. Prairie thunderstorms are amazing. Because there's depending on where you live, there's 360 degree of being able to see it. It's one of the joys of living on the edge of Tornado Alley. Frank? Yes, Yings is right. Alberta, Canada, near a railway line. And the reason I do not I try to hide where I'm from, and I only give these little bits of clues, is because I got a warning from one of my gamer that I follow, is famous Jacksepticeye. Some chick actually found him figured out where he was because he wasn't being careful enough about where he was, and she found him and knocked on his door. And so, with the way that person took his safety away, I'm trying to be careful. I'm not always careful, but I am trying to be that. If I could be, here's how my feeling about this province here, where I have come to spend my life in. I'm not dying here. I'm here because I can't afford to go home or be elsewhere. Because I can't scrape my yard and all the things that I love in my yard and this house and move it back to BC. This province has never made sense to me coming from BC with the childhood and the lifestyle I grew up through. So don't search me out that way. Shames is on you. Shames is on you for telling people how to find me, because it's scary. You know, watch me. Don't stalk me. If you came and knocked on my door as a stranger with the way I've learned to be afraid of people, you probably would freak me out there. I would probably stand and go, yes, hi, nice. I would fake politeness, but inside I'd be like going, no, please, shush, would you just go? And it's not because I'm being mean or anything. It's just there are lots of things that are going on with me. I don't share a lot, and to meet people, I would feel more comfortable meeting my followers and any fans in a public setting, at, like, if I could afford, like at Comic-Con, or oh my god, to get to an actual Comic-Con was so close to meeting Stan Lee, and missed it because we and the late hubby did not know that at the time we were going to Calgary, Comic-Con was happening and that he was there. And when we found out, we were like, ah, 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 and he was there. And the young person in where we were visiting was talking about it, and we're like, I was very quietly in doing it. My hubby was being a little bit more vocal, and this person that the young person lived with looked at me. She was 5 to 10 years older than me, and she said, "Oh yeah, well no, we couldn't in here." And I'm like, "You understand what I mean? We'll go and do it." And I'm like, "No, Comic-Con, Comic-Con Lee. Oh my god, my childhood was filled with comic books." My mom liked Doctor Strange a lot, and X Factor. That's the Canadian X-Men. But anyways, so unless I actually invite you to my house, I don't actually want you showing up at my house. And because I'm not just picking on a person. This is general put out there to anyone who might watch this video that is now over 2 hours, and I've got to quit because people are popping in and people are popping out, and then I have to repeat myself, and 2 hours is long enough. But I like meeting people. People just scare me. So I prefer to meet people in a setting where if I was to become super famous, potentially I'm on a stage answering questions with other people around, because Canada may be safer than down south, but we're not the safest country to live in. Canada is an amazing country to live in, and definitely way better than in the US. But There's a lot of things my home country is guilty of, is failing at, and that kind of thing. So I don't know who you are. You know, I do not see you in the comments. You're probably a really great person, but I don't see you putting in comments exactly where you are from, how you're living, and all this kind of stuff. And yes, I know that I have put myself in the snow globe to allow you guys to shake it all up, um, and so therefore I am open to there. I made that choice, and I'm not saying I don't want to meet people and get more greater global understanding of regular people. I would love that. I'd absolutely love that. I'm just saying, when we choose to chase after our people that we adore in movies and social media and stuff, um, often it can get ugly. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, but as Jacksepticeye experienced, a perfect stranger showing up at their door, at his door, and it's terrifying. But I need this platform because there's things I need to be vocal about, so that I'm not, I'm not being the silent that's letting things happen. So always be kind to yourself. If you got money to travel, go to someplace interesting. Places interesting in Canada. Historical parts of Vancouver and Victoria, Edmonton and Calgary, probably Toronto and Montreal. Oh my God. Learn Quebec French so you can go to Montreal and experience it. Because they don't actually speak the French we're taught in school, which is Parisian French. I'd love to go to Louisiana, but with my hearing disorder, and go to like some of the old school Louisiana. But that's Cajun French, and with my hearing disorder, I would definitely need an interpreter. Because I'd love to go to New Orleans, and I know I do believe it's pronounced New Orleans. Parts of Paris. I'd love to go to parts of Paris. London, Scotland, and just breathe in history. Oh, to go to the Parthenon in Greece, breathe in. It's okay. You didn't freak me out. You did a little, but it's okay. All that's happened with me is, in a lot of ways, is I wanted to be heard. I wished to be heard. So it's a case of be careful what you wished for. And we can no longer say in Canada, if wishes were pennies. We have to say, if wishes were nickels. But don't spend your entire life with wishes. Be proactive. That means be involved in your life. And if something's not working, figure out why it's not working, and then take the walk in the knowledge of what you're learning to go to a place where it is working. Because that's the ultimate of being alive, is to actually live, don't exist. So, yes, I actually have been outside of Canada. I made it as far as this little town whose name I can't remember in Washington State. We went for shopping down there. Because at the time we lived in Penticton, and it was an hour and a half drive to the border of Washington State. I have been to the Seattle airport when I was younger, dropping someone off there because they needed to catch a plane down there in Seattle. to get where they were going, and they were close enough to not pay for the connection from the Vancouver airport, because like, why would you pay money if the gas to get there is cheaper? And that's how close Vancouver is to actually to Seattle, because we just kind of drove over there, um, and that kind of thing. So yes, I have actually been out of the country. I have been off continent too, as well, because I have lived on Vancouver Island in Victoria, in a suburb called Saanich, Saanich, and I say a suburb of Victoria because it was its own town at the time, and then it became, um, as Victoria grew into what they call a megalopolis, and that's just a city that grows and absorbs the surrounding little communities. Um, like New York City is what, 5 boroughs? Each one of those boroughs was a separate place until New York City grew past the capacity of itself and started to, for lack of a better word, swallow up the surrounding communities. So, um, yes, Northern Europe, which can have a lot of the same cold temperatures as we do here in northern Canada. If you look at a globe and you look at where England is and the United Kingdom is, which is an amalgamation of countries, morally squished. Northern Ireland is better fighters, I guess. But Ireland, which is Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England, is the UK. I do believe it's down far enough that the bottom of the middle of the United Kingdom runs with the borders of the top of the provinces and the territories. That the UK, if you took it and slid it across the map, would be half would be on the Northwest Territory, then the Northern Territories, and the other half, or at least the bottom third, would be touching the tops of all the Canadian provinces, type thing. It must be the same, right? Just less developed, I assume, compared to Norway. Oh no! Oh no! Okay. The thing being is the population of Canada sits mostly along the border with the United States. So we are as developed as them there in that country as any country in the United States, Europe, places like Russia, etc. But yes, we are developed. It's just that a lot of places in Canada you can't actually have a large city because of the fact that you can't build houses, so you end up with farmland, you end up with forests and all that other kind of things, and a cabin here, cabin there, cabin over there, Canada is actually, by land mass, there's lots of stuff is bigger than the United States. You can actually cover the United States, Hawaii, and Alaska, and is it Puerto Rico that's attached to you guys, where you don't need a passport specifically to go there? Well, you might now. just to make sure that you can, can you still use a passport to prove you're a U.S. citizen with everything that's going on? Uh, we are not technically a fully an Arctic country. I will leave that up to Sweden, Finland, Norway, etc. They are actual Arctic countries, and I think even Russia's more of an Arctic country than we are. Hence, the not liking the minus 32. Canada is kind of like the bridge. And I'm going to throw this in your face because you don't know your history between the Canada in the early years and Canada and the U.S. There's a thing called 54-40 or fight. We are the only country on the planet. We had some help. Thank you, England. And at that point, thank you, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. We sacked we actually sacked the White House when it was in Pennsylvania. We were just developing, and at that time, I think Canada was actually just Ontario and Quebec at that time. But 54-40 is BC. And it was 54-40 or fight. And we told the Americans, the U.S. So, if you are thinking what's happening in Canada with the U.S., no, it's part of our history that we're taught in school to tell the U.S. politicals and their war machines go sparkle someone else's eyes, because we are peoples. We may be younger than you, but Canada would be still Canada even if that border were 50. I think you were meaning this as a joke, but as a Canadian, ooh, the redhead's coming out. Ooh, no. If things had gone a little bit different and we'd had leaders stand up to your leaders, the border would actually potentially run more like the bottom of Washington State, like maybe even top of California, Oregon there, and straight across. Because at certain times in history, we actually were pushing back down the Mississippi. There's a song about that, I do believe. Shit, I wish I could remember. But yes. But that's the truth. Okay. Yeah, you were trying to make it funny, which unfortunately that's what people do who are not from here try to do, and say, hey, no, we've always pushed back. We have always in our history pushed back. Not if China has anything to say about that. If Russia does not want to be bombed, if the Russian government, I will specifically say this, the Russian government does not want to be bombed off the face of the earth and take everybody around them with it, they will start listening to China more. Because for those bombs to come up and over, because I know that Arctic Circle is, and that's why we're seen as, because we have snow and we're an Arctic country, there's places in China that are far more Arctic than most of where people are living in Canada. And no, we don't know how to drive in snow. We just do it anyways because the snow is there and you got to go to work, you got to feed your kids and all that other kind of things. It does not mean we know how to drive in it and that we're good at it. And a snow day in the U.S. is completely different than a snow day here in Canada. You get it. A dusting of snow here in Canada, everybody's still driving. It used to be, and it's apparently not anymore. If the buses couldn't run in the 80s when I was going to high school, in the northern part of BC. If the buses couldn't start, you didn't have to go to school. Because it was that cold outside that a bus couldn't get it up. Couldn't get it going. Teachers still had to go. Somebody had to show up. So there was usually a vice president, a vice principal, or a principal, and a few teachers just in case kids got dropped off of school. And some of us, I remember, because that was around minus 32 when that happens. Generally, vehicles just really have the hardest time starting, even plugged in. But minus 32. But if buses could run at minus 32, 33, 34, we put our clothes on, and the bulk of us walked to school in that. Yeah, that's my childhood. Walking over an hour to school when I was 6 years old. And then I had that same hour to get home. And then, and there was part of it felt like no man's land, where I was living. And then with wind, and this is with wind chills. So the actual temperature might have been minus 28, but the wind's getting in everything, and things aren't working. But walking home where it was minus 28, but the winds picked up, taking the shortcut home, which shaved about 10 minutes off my 20-minute walk. If I'd gone the other way, it would have added at least 10-15 minutes to what was actually about a 20-minute walk. Wishing I hadn't tried to be cool. And I put my toque, my beanie, where I hadn't buried it in my backpack under my textbooks. My dad would have rained holy hell upon my ass had he known some of the things I did in high school. I remember walking to school with wet hair, and by the time I got to school, it was frozen because it was minus whatever outside, minus 30 with no wind chill, and we can walk to school. Hello, stray cat, kitty, kitty. Bye. But anyways, yes. So I am not worried about nukes from Russia, because they have China, which is bigger than they are, way bigger, and a much bigger population. Canada has such a tiny population compared to countries of our size. But yeah, I'm not worried about nukes. I'm more worried about a need of hearing in the news that the U.S. government is standing along the Canadian border shooting its own citizens. Read the book. It's a little hard to follow, but read the book by Margaret Atwood, Canadian author, that I read in the 90s. The book was written before then, but I do believe it. And I got it from Doubleday Books, which is this place where you could order books from. Read The Handmaid's Tale. That book is at least 30 years old, and what's happening in the U.S. right now is exactly what that book spoke of. In grade 11, we read 1984 by George Orwell. He predicted it. It just didn't happen in 1984. But we're there. Everybody talks about Big Brother, but most people haven't read that book. Yes, everybody. Use social media for good and go and see what is happening in the U.S. Because right now there's a bill being passed, has passed, or is under construction that says that the government has the right to round up people who are disabled and a burden on the government into these little communities. Do we remember, if for those that know history, do we remember the last time that happened? Hitler, SS, World War II. So and then I see these things going on. I keep predicting this World War III, and I don't have enough of a following anywhere that anybody's actually listening to me. And maybe if I did, it would be terrifying because all of a sudden I'm put in a spotlight that I'm not ready for. But when those that often get called are shoved where they don't want to be, that's what happens. I'm very aware, so I have been very quiet. But when I see similarities to atrocities that happened, that my one great-grandfather got gassed during the First World War to prevent, that my maternal grandfather and my dad joined different sections of our military, but the war ended by the time they were shipped out, because my dad, I do believe, was in training in Ontario or something. Wasn't here. He's from Alberta, but not here. I'm technically only second generational Canadian on his side, and I think according to the laws that have been passed in the United States, that I technically am not a Canadian citizen. Which totally, I actually looked this up. Trump's grandfather is from his paternal grandfather, I think it was. It's from Germany. So technically, Trump on his father's side is only second generation U.S. citizen, which I think violates the law he pushed through about defining what an American citizen actually, or his beliefs anyways, of what defines an actual U.S. citizen. Because I know there was a generation where they were drawing the line to push out people of ethnic origins out of the country. So here's a white man telling somebody who's colored parents, I hate that word, colored parents is fine, colored is very ambiguous, that they are not a citizen because their parents came from some other country. And why we don't realize as white people that this is meant for us too, because your Polish parents or your Ukrainian parents or your English parents who came to this country to make a better, or to the U.S., this continent, to make a better life in the U.S. for you, and then had you here, even though they passed all the citizenship stuff under his rules and his thinking, you're not an actual citizen of the United States. Your parents definitely are, even though they went through all the stuff, to jump the hoops, the money, the etc., to make sure they were citizens, to have their children be born as citizens. Technically, according to him, you're not. Because I think it's third generation is where the line is drawn. If you are fourth generation or whatever, you are completely safe and you're fine. But anywhere up to third generation U.S., you had better be getting all your paperwork in order so many generations back, so you can prove that you actually have the right to live in your country. The shortest distance being an Arctic country? Shit, half my country is not even in the Arctic Circle. As far as I know, the Arctic Circle does not extend down into the top of Alberta. It doesn't even cut through half of the Hudson Bay, that Arctic Circle that would actually say to countries, certain countries, that you're an Arctic country. I have to check things. My answer, you are absolutely right, and that's why they want Canada. Because, yes, the shortest distance being an Arctic country is, if he gets a hold of our country, then he can put world annihilating things up there, and he can spy on the rest of the northern world. You don't see him chasing after Antarctica so that he can take out Australia. Gotta watch those Australians, which is part of our Commonwealth. Oh, and let's see what else is down there. Chile is down the side of South America down there. Gotta watch those Chileans, because you know. But anyway, my ancestors are the entire UK. So that's Welsh, Irish, English, Scottish. Welsh, Irish, English, Scottish. I have ancestors from Russia, Germany, because Mom said my one great grandmother was raised Pennsylvania Dutch, and when you do the looking at that, it's a polite way of saying Amish. The Amish are Pennsylvania Dutch, and I'm actually related to John A. McDonald via his sister. And oh my God, when I went and looked pictures up her, shit, my dad, spitting image, just with all the boobs and long hair. And McDonald is Scottish, but I have, I have Welsh ancestry. I have Irish ancestry. I have that Scottish ancestry. I do have that English ancestry. Potentially, if I could do a deep search, I would have relatives in France, because a lot of Scots, especially Catholic Scots, went to France to escape English brutality through being Protestant when Henry VIII decided the Pope was wrong and that he needed a divorce, because what he needed was a son to rule the country, and here's the irony, a daughter. He had 2 daughters, and his son run the country. The big one is Queen Elizabeth I. And his son died before he had a chance to even get there. And so that's the kind of thing. Russia will not nuke the U.S. at all, because as far as I know, Putin, the Prime Minister Putin, I do believe that's what they call their dude, is friends with Trump. And things got a little quiet with what's happening in the Ukraine with that Russia-United States connection when Trump decides he's going to be the one president that takes over Canada, and we're going to become the 51st state. Although the reality in that is Alberta is sitting so close to becoming the 51st state, which gives Trump and the Republican Party, because who lets somebody like that sit in power? Even in Canada, we got it, and we got rid of Justin Trudeau. Like, Sorry, I shouldn't. I'm trying not to do that because it's very derogatory behavior. Um, meant for a certain. It's a representation of how a certain segment of the population behaves, and I should not use it. It is bad. Very derogatory. Um, but anyways, yeah, if you want to know what's truly going on with the United States and the rest of the world, talk to an informed Canadian who's taken a step back and is watching and is willing to throw their politics in the garbage to go vote with politics they don't agree with anymore in order to stop what's happening in this country. So yes, I have lots of European ancestry, which means that if we're going to go ancestor DNA crap stuff, potentially, I have borderline between Russia and China, their ancestors there, down into France and Italy and Greece and stuff. Mom always said I had a Grecian profile. I can't do it because with my face shape, I look a lot like Greeks that were on coins, and that's not a thing, not an uncommon thing, because if you take a look at their history, a lot of Romans took a lot of Greek children with them as slaves type people, to serve as their workers and stuff in their tents when they went and got as far as Ireland, because they did cross the English Channel, the English-French Channel, which is now called the Channel. There's a channel because they decided in their infinite wisdom, oh my gosh, this is nuts. This is so crazy. I couldn't go in it because I'm too claustrophobic. But there is a passageway under the English Channel to France from England to, back and forth. Great for trucking. Don't have to wait for good weather for ships to cross. But that tunnel is under all that water. And cars and people are in there. And just the so I highly doubt that the USA, and I'm trying to read your things and express myself knowledgeably, etc. Russia will not nuke their biggest supporter. Nope. Yes, I can agree that it would, but the US is not going to kill that nuke because this is an imaginary nuke. The threat is China. But they're not going to bomb us, as they just signed this multi-billion, trillion-dollar deal for electronic vehicles with us. And so financially, it's in their best interest not to bomb their trading partner. Everybody should be more worried about the nukes in the US than the ones in China and all that, because there's a crazy man with crazy followers behind them. You should be afraid. Everybody in the world should be very, very afraid that the worldwide destruction via nuclear weapons is not going to come from where we have been taught in the past where it's coming from. Not China, not Russia. They're running out of money and stuff. I think they're at a place where they're not going to be able to feed their soldiers again, which happened in World War II. And in World War II, if a Russian soldier abandoned his post, his superior could shoot him dead. So, yeah. We're not, as a species, we are not learning from our history. And ergo, the past is repeating itself. We all know that war is such a bad thing. But because the money is so good from war that you make from war, it's continued. But there's a saying that goes, insanity is doing things over and over again, repeatedly, repetitively. It's either repetitively or repeatedly, or both might be the right word. Curse of larger vocab. But doing it over and over and over again and expecting the same result, that's the sign of insanity. So Canada isn't going to have the bad things. There's a puppet master, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a person who's it has the ability to see and hear and be aware, going, Trump and what he's doing is the smokescreen. There are powers that be in the United States and potentially around the world that love this, because while they're going, oh, you're a nice person, huggy, huggy, they've got the knife and they're going, stabbing you in the back. The world is built. Modern society is actually built on this premise that people are not paying attention. Okay? You're following me, so basically it's just been a conversation between you and I, with people plopping in and out and deciding whether or not they want to do this. But one person listening is all it takes to start something better. You just got to find the other person that understands that. And a lot of what I'm talking about is coming up from comedians on YouTube. Josh Johnson, I think his name is. Very enlightened man. He's a comedian. Very educated in potentially more of a street way. Made comments in his stand-up in the short that I caught about how down below, people were doing things that the Secret Service would normally crowd around the president, but they left him sitting at the table and crowded around Vance, their vice president. Therefore reaffirming what I said about Vance that I haven't said on here. I watched a video on him, it was probably on my phone, where this man who used to be anti-Trump, their vice president used to be anti-Trump, nothing to do with Trump. He did not have the popularity to get into power, so they put the one person who had the popularity into power to get J.D. Vance into a place where if Trump died, got impeached, whatever, nobody cares about Trump. They're just waiting for him to evaporate so that they can, they're just waiting for J.D. Vance to be in a place to take over. So be very afraid of a Trump that's impeached, that needs to be impeached, because they impeached a president who was good for their country for sexual impropriety, which had more to do with most of it, a bunch of it, not to diminish what happened to some of the women, because that's bad. Bad. Taking advantage of people is bad. But the one that he originally got nailed on was between him and his wife. the Republican Party did that. They pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. The Democratic Party, as far as I'm under the understanding, the entire Republican nation of that support the fascist dictator Trump have silenced anyone that opposes this. Um, um, Trump is most likely going to die in office. He has been showing signs that he does not have good health. He's messed up in a whole bunch of illegal stuff that got worse than whatever Nixon did. Way worse than what Nixon did. His was political impropriety. He didn't behave in a manner that was coming of a president towards, or even a pre-president, another party, the Democrats. They made a movie out of that. Someone needs to put in, I need more than one person so they can put in the comments the stuff that I'm talking about. This is where we got the term deep throat from, was that movie. And it had Robert Redford in it. Oh no, if I have any Greek in it, it is back Roman time ancestor. In that matter. But I have the profile, Mom said. So I wouldn't be surprised that if it showed up, if I did one of those ancestry DNA test thingies, that I have like 0.010 like percent of Greek in me. I just said I wouldn't be surprised. I don't care. They have really good food. What do I care? I don't care, but I'm just saying, you asked about my ancestry, and I said potentially I could have. So answered your question. But anyways, I'm not really a blonde. For the vast majority of my life, I grew up, before I found hair dye, I grew up a dishwater strawberry blonde. In the summer, I was more golden blonde than dishwater blonde, or dirty blonde. But yes, I have dyed my hair various colors, from red, from blondes, to reds, which I love, purplish colors. VL Sassoon had some really cool colors at one time in the early 2000s, late 90s. And I rocked the one red. Oh my god, I rocked it. I have dyed my hair mahogany, a dark mahogany, and boy, did I notice the difference, and confirmed a theory of mine that my hair is the reason that a lot of people treat me the way I do. They do. Because I had people who had treated me like I was younger and unknowledgeable start talking to me like a normal person when I dyed my hair dark. And this is a person who knew me. And so, anyways, I'm actually paler. I have this thing called Raynaud's syndrome. I think I have there's two types of it, and I have the one that doesn't kill you dead because you have because it comes with other illnesses like lupus and things like that. I think I have primary Raynaud's, not secondary. And for that, I'm grateful. I hate my frozen hands and my lack of color. Because I used to be rosy cheeked, because I have rosacea. And anybody who knows what rosacea is, they can still see it here. But like I was trying to say, and then got just let myself get distracted. I no longer have rosy cheeks anymore at any point, and I look like a ghost during winter. Um, um, yes, yes. Everybody thinks Trump's bad. Go look at Vance and the people who is in there. I had a friend who's in knowledgeable. She follows the stuff. She's a U.S. citizen, and she had told me that we didn't have to worry about Trump because there's 5 major generals that don't support him. But then I had to take a step back, and I got cold again, and because Vance does. He has military buddies. So Trump is just the first wave. Comes off as being, this is what the Third Reich did. Put stuff out there, make look everybody, distraction. Hitler wasn't seen as quite the idiot that Trump is, but he was charismatic. This was a man, Hitler was a man who looked like a Jew, dark hair, dark eyes, mustache, that was the front of a society that supported blonde and blue eye and really white. So how nutty is that? So that tells me he was a puppet to get what other people wanted, and that was the point. There are puppet masters pulling the strings all around the world because it's in their best interest to distract us so they can keep the status quo, because that means the money and the lifestyles that they've come to enjoy stay the same. But there are bigger fish to fry when you're not paying attention to things like global stuff and the fact of the Pacific Rim and that supervolcano, which I got told a few days ago, there's fault lines that run to it under the state in the U.S. where Yellowstone is. Everybody laughed at, that movie was, it's just a movie. No, that movie is based on an actual real fact of a super volcano sitting under Yellowstone National Park, which is why Old Faithful goes off regularly. And that's a geyser that shoots water instead of lava. They're just water volcanoes. But, so I've been sitting here wondering too, what's happening with Old Faithful? Is she going off more often now? I don't think he was chosen by Trump. I think everybody looks at that, but I think that's the smokescreen. That's the lie everybody's buying, that this is all Trump's fault. There are things a party can do to stop their president. We're talking about the Democrat, Nixon. What the hell is his name? Because he's only like about 20 years older than me. Monica Lewinsky and all that stuff. What is his name? Bill Clinton. There it is. I visualized who it was, and then the name popped in. Bill Clinton got impeached for sexual impropriety. Nixon, who was a Republican, got impeached for political impropriety. But Trump, who is destroying your economy, the U.S. economy, creating crimes against human basic rights, crimes of humanity, there are people looking at him as, we should probably charge him with war crimes, but definitely human rights violations, their own civil rights violations. A man who is been accused and, as far as I know, charged with sexual harassment. This is the president of their country, so it's just a smokescreen. And Vance was not popular enough to get the Republicans into as the leader, Kamala would have taken it. She was more liked, more well known than Vance. He was just a unknown, and so they used the smoke and mirrors. There is a great Oz. If you want conspiracy theories, there's a great Oz behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz, controlling things. And he's getting away with it because people like me get shut up. We don't get to say. Yes, I've heard bad things about Rubio. I can't pull that all out. There's some of it's just way too much information in my poor little head. Canada's leading the charge to stop the fascist dictator Trump that is ruling the United States at the moment. Yes, I have seen some things about doing cringe stuff and the way he behaves, and the dude's not all there. You can see it. But yes, and a lot of stuff. And thank you, Clinton. And yes, he is still alive. No, I think they can actually go worse. The U.S. of America could go worse. They are pre Third Reich, where Hitler was before all the atrocities were happening down there. Type thing. There's a friend of mine who's 2 steps away from being rounded up into what basically is a concentration camp because she's disabled and a burden on her federal government. And she's giving me information that those places, those are start there, that the detention centers that Canadians, amongst others, are getting caught up. Children are being shoved into these ICE detention, the ICE detention camps. And one Canadian woman, basically, the horror things that happened to her, and the only reason why her story got out about the atrocities that American citizens, and some of it was American citizens that she was staying with, where they were sleeping on a floor without blankets, not enough adequate food. This was early stages, just after Trump got voted in. So what is that? He got in 2024. So in a year and a half, in a year since in a year and a half, it's 2026. I mean, depending on when he got sworn in about 2 years, the United States has concentration camp-like facilities in their country. Now, I have to point down, but it's that way because they're south, and south is that way. That's what's going on there. And it's all over social media. Some of it's AI. AI won't do this. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oh, God. I'm so flushed. But anyways. 3 hours, it should get better. But anyways, it's very hard to talk about all these things in less than you and I have been going back and forth for over 3 hours now. But how do you talk about what's happening in just my little world and then expand upon that to include the bigger world? Like, there's so much stuff I haven't even talked about that I have mentioned in videos I've had to do on TikTok and then over here, but we can go live now. My world is making sense. But yes, down there is really, really bad. The same way as any country has people without food. The haves sit on the backs of the have-nots and watch them starve to death. Not all of them. That's generalization. Please take that as a generalization. There's some very good people with haves down there pointing out things. Keanu Reeves being one of them, who was born in Beirut and raised in Canada. So he's a sideways Canadian that everybody thinks is American. Is U.S. Uh, no, I'm not sure. The U.S. actually wastes more food than other countries in the world. I would say they're one of the biggest ones that do, with potentially Canada right behind them. Um, are you old enough to remember We Are the World? That big concert where all those famous singers got all together and had a concert to promote. I think I might have been still in high school at that time. So I graduated in 1989, about the same time as the Berlin Wall came down. So two history things that happened in my lifetime. Um, Very important at this concert. And, we are the world. We are the people. And I don't remember if that was Somalia or Ethiopia or something, but one of those African countries over there that nobody really knows anything about. You want to travesty and human rights violations? Why do we not know anything about these people over there? But anyways, food was raised. Billions of dollars were raised to feed these people. You want to know what happened to the rice from that concert that was bought? What the dictator of the country, that the fascist dictator, did was, what he didn't take for him and his soldiers, he left on docks and at airports to rot. There was all this rice bagged up and other associated things that these poor refugees, these poor people whose rights as just to survive, never even saw, because the dictator wouldn't let Red Cross and other people deliver it to them. So it sat and rotted. Billions of dollars worth of stuff gone. Poof. I remember when I saw a documentary on that, because I was one of those hopeful, yeah, we're doing our thing. Yay, we're sending them money to help these people so they're not starving and we'll have slightly better living conditions, while I'm sitting in my house with my running water and in my country where I don't have to worry about somebody coming in and taking me out of my bedroom, and I can hear my mother screaming because the soldiers are raping them and all that other kind of stuff. The food never went where it was supposed to go. Most people don't know that, even to this day, that the food never went to feed the people. All of that money, all that effort, that time got wasted. In Canada, in BC, I will speak for BC. I found out that the fruit board, and this may be why there was more money in wineries in the Okanagan than there was in orchards. Why people tore out their orchards and put in vineyard grapes for wines and things. Because the board ruled in its infinite wisdom to keep the status quo. And if a orchardist had more fruit, they could not donate it. They could only sell a certain of the surplus, because that's where the fruit stands in the Okanagan, from the north all the way down to Vancouver, all down there. There's tons and tons of fruit stands. They're disappearing and there's not as many left. But, found out that if you belong to these boards, and in order to sell commercially, you had to belong to some form of board that sort of ran. It probably was a good thing when they started. This is like a mini little government. If you were lucky, you could donate it to a food bank. But a lot of fruit got destroyed. It went. It didn't get to the supermarket. Anything that didn't get to supermarket that they weren't allowed to that they could sell at their little fruit sales. Anything above that amount was garbage. And that happened with the dairy as well. They dump it because they have to abide by rules. Over a certain portion, you cannot fluctuate the prices. So when there's abundance, prices can't go down. It just stays the same. So it's not just happening in the US. Food waste is happening in Canada because too many people are following the rule of thumb that we need strawberries this big. I grow strawberries this big in my yard, and oh my God, they're the strawberries of my childhood. Not those things that don't taste like anything that children will not eat because they're biologically programmed to not eat things that are bitter or tart, because a lot of berries and things that in the wild that if a child wandered off and ate would poison them. They're actually biologically programmed, although they do it anyways, because they experience their world through their mouth. Toddlers specifically through their mouth. That's why they shove everything in there. They're trying to. That's their tactile awareness of the world. But they were biologically programmed not to do that. So children today are more apt to eat gummies that they say are healthy, and it's horseshit. Might as well be gumdrops and stuff. I don't care if there's real fruit juice in it. It's got as much sugar. Tiny little gummy often has as much sugar as some of the jelly bears, gummy bears. That's what it is. Thank you, song. Once you know the nutritional facts. And welcome to Canada, where we put them on labels that are confusing for people to understand, so they ignore them. So anyways, Canada wastes as much food as the United States does. The only reason we don't waste more, or we're not seen as wasting as much as they do, is because smaller population. But if we had their population, we would be some of the biggest polluters on the planet as a country. From all the medications that we take, the fact that we're as bad for driving our cars and using plastic as they're down there. The only thing that makes us slightly better is recycling, and Alberta only joined, in my area, really, only joined the big push for recycling a couple of years ago. Not any more than 5 years ago. So in 2021, in my area, it was deemed we should be recycling beyond the few people who could take to the bins out at the dump. So do not look at Canada as this enlightened thing, because no, there's so much corruption and garbage going on behind the scenes that Canada is as guilty. We still have not fulfilled promises that we made at environmental summits from like 10 years ago. And before that, there was ones. There were promises made from Canadian prime ministers who went to these global summits that we were supposed to have done 30 years ago, like in 2000, so that we wouldn't end up where we are in 2030. But we're here now, a few years away from 2030, and only some of it's being implemented. So a spade is a spade, and being very blunt, I love my country, but don't think we're all that in a bag of potato chips. And we're wonderful. There are a lot of violations here, and there are things that are coming up that my good old ancestor, John A. Macdonald, is, as a white man, as a leader of our country, and what has happened since 1867 have just really started to come to light in the last 5 years. You could call him Columbus or Pizarro or something like that, because the atrocities he committed against the indigenous. Yeah, we rambled. So yes, you can have people without food; they're just starving, and then they can't think right because you need sugars. Because sugar, your brain runs on sugars. YouTube policies that have come down. The Americans finally caught up. The U.S. finally caught up about 5 years ago with what children should be watching and what they shouldn't. And this is things I used to watch on TV as a child in the early 80s. So we be controlled, and the latest thing that's come down is you got to watch the background noise, because you may think your TV in the other room is low enough where you can barely hear it, but the algorithm might, your speaker on your microphone or your phone or whatever you're using might pick it up, and then you'll have your video silenced and demonetized for copyright. And a lot of YouTubers actually were trying to have, but they would sing parts of songs. Like, I'm not big enough to be monetized, so the fact that I was singing bits and pieces of song lyrics and things will slip. But if I ever get big, this live could get demonetized and silenced in spots. It might not be as bad as with TikTok, but with spots. 6 a.m. there. It's almost 7 p.m. here. So it's not quite Sunday. Hello, future. Hello, future. So yes, we are existing in a time paradox. Going way back to more in the beginning of this video about quantum physics, with the modern day technology, people can exist in the same place, in more than one place, space and time. Yeah, in more than one time, space time. Yeah, whatever. I would say, yeah, this is probably my longest video here. The one I did where I lost my temper and was just it made me mean was on TikTok, and that one was almost 4 hours of wandering off topic, going back, trying to bring it back to the topic, addressing new viewers coming in, because it was about food and cooking and what we need, grocery lists and things, what you actually need for groceries. And it ended up watering. I attacked people. As far as that one, it wasn't, as far as I know, because I was polite enough about it. I didn't get silenced. So that was my longest video. I don't know, but I would imagine that if you went fast enough. If you could go around the globe back 2 times, would you get back 2 days in the past? And I read that out because just in case somebody is crazy enough to watch this video in the future. I hope so, because there's some really important stuff that will get lost because this video is too long. I don't know. I know that was the premise in the one Christopher Reeves, Superman, in Superman 2 or something. He went around the planet either forward or backwards to fix things in timeline. But that's about as far as you would want to go. But in like quantum physics and quantum mechanics, it certainly is possible. The realm of it is possibility. That's fine, but it'll make most of my video not makes sense, and nothing you've said would look bad upon you. You've asked very intelligent questions, and you've made comments, so I don't know why you would delete comments, why you would delete your texts, why you would go through all that, when maybe, if we're lucky, one person will watch the first 20 seconds of this and then decide it's not for them. And I can tell you right here, right now, with 126 followers, we'll say 120 because other six may actually know me, etc. Nobody watches my videos, so you don't have to worry about that. Um, you really shouldn't even allude to your age. Like, it's, I say my age because it gives context, to what I'm saying. But other YouTubers, you can get bounced from chat for saying anything close to your age, even if you're making like, you didn't, but a thing to reference your age. Um, there's a lot of be polite, or, I have to deal with you so that algorithms don't deal with me from higher up. And some of it's really good stuff. Uh, so, um, unless, here's my guidance when it comes to chatting, and I'm talking to you specifically, or anyone who is watching 4 hours. Guidance when we're watching long videos is, don't try and watch them all at once. Break them up into how long you can, and just go back and watch your parts. But the thing being, if you don't say anything that would be considered hateful to another, harmful to another, but nasty, it's a Thumper's mummer. It's a Bambi-ism. Thumper's mother said, Thumper was Bambi's, like, one of Bambi's best friends in the movie Bambi, which I have not seen all of it. I had a record, and I know exactly what happened in that movie, and I have no desire to watch what happened in that movie. But anyways, Thumper's mother said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So, asking questions when you don't know the answer, as long as you're polite, that's nice. Stay in the realm of nice. Be polite. It's okay to ask questions. We're being told don't ask questions, and that's wrong. Knowledge is power. I live on here. This is giving me big back part of my life. Music. I need to know how to do something. I want to learn more about something that I'm in. There's a woman I follow who makes clothes out of recycled materials she gets from secondhand stores a lot. She's made clothing out of pillowcases. Apparently, she's now, it doesn't look exactly the same, of course, but she's made a dress in it. She's copied the design of the dress somewhat. A $300 dress she made for $10. So, you want to survive in this world today? Give up a lifestyle you can't financially support. So, I listen to music, and I watch videos on here, and I love gamers, and some of the freest people on YouTube are gamers, provided they're not being squashed by things. If on your video you have put it's not for children, this video is not made for children, whether you swear or not, or talk about adult topics, should be, you've already stated, it should not fall within the algorithm of the children. Now, having said that, the amount of children who have access to the internet in a way I never did as a child is scary. and how tech savvy 4-year-olds can be. It's scary. Do not leave your cell phone, your internet alone with small children. It is very easy for them to figure crap out and not be able to turn around and tell you how they know how to do that. So, like I said, I usually don't be on YouTube this long. I was kind of happy with the 10 minutes, wishing there were 15 to half an hour. That's my comfortable thing, is half an hour, because I'm not repeating myself and everything like that. But things like that are not getting done. I was supposed to go outside and do yard stuff, and it's not looking like it's going to get done because I chose to do a live because I got all excited about this on YouTube. So a lot of my problems are time management problems because of my chronic illnesses. So I um, I follow like 22 people on TikTok. And that's it. And most of those are my friends, are people that I made friends with on Facebook or are friends with in real life. I do not have time for more projects. Um, I really don't. Um, I would encourage you to go down the fibromyalgia rabbit hole and learn about that. And then you'll see what I mean. First off, it's more, from what I'm finding, it's a central nervous system disorder. In my country, it's under arthritis. Most of the information I can find is because I don't think we have a fibromyalgia Canada site. There's an arthritis Canada site. There is an MS Canada, ALS, and cancer and all that other sites. But as far as I know, oh, and the heart and stroke foundations and things like that. Fibro is still being seen as a non-illness, a fake illness. One of the reasons why I got rid of my ex-boyfriend, because I couldn't handle his mother, and he wasn't strong enough to stand up to her and tell her to go stick her philosophy up her butt and blow it out her nose. So, yeah, you would think it was, but I, other than pissing around with some music, like put my poetry to music, I watch Space Odyssey 2001 and meet our buddy Hal. I have no love for AI other than what it can do in the entertainment department. There's a history nobody's watching. And now we've handing over technology to AI. Did you have people not watch Terminator? I live in the messages that come from my childhood, which was media. And the one little short, I think was on Canadian TV, and the CBC had brought out from the National Film Board here in Canada, where there was something about where the teacher, I think everybody's dressed in 1950s clothes, about, at the end of this little short, about what about is media the message, or the message being the media? And and he came out and like, media is the message, and so many people are not watching movies and they're going, it's entertainment. Well, there's a lot of people that are trying to get things across, but the only way they can get it across is to put it in some place where it's watered down and seen as, oh, this is fun. and then people forget. But they're rewritten stories of our history to fit a modern vibe. And so I only have my phone, dude. I don't know if you're a dudette or a dude. And because this is live and I'm able to free flow my thoughts, trying to fill out anything, where I have to put my name in and everything, within 5 minutes I get migraines. So, and that's why I said it might seem very simple to you, who's not much in the grand scheme of things, is actually not that much younger than I am. It's not that I'm fighting you, because now you're starting to say, yeah, but I'm telling you, no, I'm not going to bother this. I have projects up to wazoo that are getting ignored because I forget and I do things like this. I'm telling you, I literally don't have time. Like, the actual word of literal. I don't have time. So now I'm fighting with you, trying to because you are not listening to me and you're just trying to be helpful. Here's another quote that I love throwing around now. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I am not denying that what you are trying to do is to help me out. And this is great. But when getting out of bed and fighting my medication because I pulled a boo-boo and forgot to do the math, so that I end up being distracted on here for 3 hours because I'm actually getting to talk in a way that works for me in a world that doesn't allow me to talk like this. So I get excited and then, yeah, and I go, and then stretch it out. Means I'm not being heard. That's what the psychology behind this 3.5 hour video is, that I am not being heard. So I appreciate, because I'm hearing you, man, woman, child, whatever person, yings. If it would be as simple as all that, I'd have done it already. And the things that I talk about with me that sometimes get picked up as complaining and not, I'm just stating facts of my situation. I'm not being seen. Too, so that hence the long videos. I do not have time to supervise this project. I'm heading down an advocate path that in my space and time is more important, and I apologize because it's not. But I have a calling that, like I said, I didn't follow when I was 19 years old, and I should have. I think I'd have been much happier than the path I took that society said it's the best one for me. My province is following the path of the United States. And as a person who is about to be treated with the same respect the United States citizens are being treated. We went from, like, we should be treated better to, where's my health care going? You're taking my health care away. To, am I Albertan enough after living in this province for 20 years? Almost 20 years. Am I Albertan enough? Or am I going to have people show up at my door and physically remove me from my house? This is where Alberta is sitting. So I don't have time to take on another project. I still haven't cleaned my yard, and I got that notice. I found it in my window well, beginning of May. It's end of June. People are not listening to me as to how to do this job. They just want to wipe the slate blank, have me be quiet about it, and just do it that way. Because it's the easiest way for them to help me, instead of listening to the way I need to. I'm trying to tell you it's the easiest way for me, and then the problem goes away and it won't happen again. It's raining. I need some gasoline. I can go all Albertan in the alley and light a bonfire. Or what's left of my piece of driveway. I could burn all the wood and it would be done. If I took it up to the dump, that's exactly what they're going to do at the dump. They're going to put some sort of fuel on it so it will burn, and they'll burn it all down. So that's very environmental. But anyways, yes, I would love to be able to help every living thing, every living project that needs to have a voice, but I can't. You go be the voice for your project. Learn, watch videos on YouTube on how to manage. Go to school and learn how to be a manager of projects. Open your own YouTube channel and embrace the knowledge other people will leave in the comments, because we're, as a species, are known to do that. Ignore the trolls, the people who are putting you down and stuff. Just tell them I don't deal with trolls except to put sunlight on them, if you follow Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But anyways, go do it. Be brave. I wonder what the world would look like if people did what Sarah Bareilles, the singer that came up and said that song, made the song Brave. And she said, I want you to be brave. And at the end of the video, there's this guy dancing, and some guy asking another guy, what's wrong with him? Did he not take his medication today? Don't be those people. Be the person dancing for the sake of dancing. But go out and be your own advocate. And rally those around you who support yourself. Support. Because that's what's happening in the US and Alberta, is the people who are being vocal are drawing other people who are emotionally invested in what these people are saying without necessarily being educated. They just like what these peoples are saying, which is what's happening with separatism in Alberta, because everybody thinks that if we separate, Alberta will be better off. $9.4 billion in debt, people, does not say separatism is a good thing for this province. Alberta is known as Little Texas to a lot of other provinces. So there you go. If you want a comparison of what Alberta is like, take all that stuff you're learning about in movies and stuff about Texas that, everybody takes as truth, and that's Alberta. So, like I said, unless you, there's an email attached to this channel. Unless you send me a document, like a well-worded, as best as you can in English, as I'm not fluent in Google Translate like Dr. Strange was, I am not your person. I know where I'm supposed to be, and the fact that you're pushing tells me that I need to end this video, because it's too fucking long anyways, and you need to go to work or whatever it is you do after 6 a.m. in wherever it is you are. And I need to eat something because I can feel my blood sugars dropping. There are a lot of good projects out there. Ones that I wish I could have get involved in. Ones I could support, like I almost slipped, but like my local cat rescue. Their sister rescue in another town very close to here, a week ago, got dropped off 22 cats. I think all of which were not spayed or neutered, so they're not fixed. So that means that they can make more babies. And a cat can do that. A female cat can do that 4 times a year. And if it's a house cat, potentially more now, because we've given them conditions that are perfect for breeding. But anyways, yeah, I don't know what you mean by dodo, unless that's doo-doo. But yes, do your thoughts. Think. Postulate. To postulate means to think, to process thought. The smartest thing anyone can do is put stuff down on paper. Get rid of this. Tap my phone. Whoops. Get rid of this. Go old school. Piece of paper, maybe with headphones with your favorite music on. Put it on paper and then read from the paper. Now that I can do lives, it'll be live. It's Saturday night. And those that know what I'm referencing. But anyways, go do that. Go do your homework. Don't be afraid to do your homework. Don't be afraid to be wrong. We learn. It's not wrong to make mistakes. We learn from making mistakes. Repeating the mistakes because we're unwilling to learn from them is what's wrong. So, on that note, I have a pee. And we're almost got a 4-hour video. I don't erase my lives, so this will be here if you need to wind up, and anybody needs to rewind and see stuff, or they want to follow the video, and do that. It's under lives. We're in playlists, in your list of options. Go to lives, and this one should be there. If I haven't been talking into the atmosphere, this video should be saved. So I need to go to the bathroom, eat something, fold my laundry, and while I'm folding my laundry, take notes as I process what I've been doing in here about how to break down what I just did in about 4 hours into like an hour and keep them that way. So yes, you have a good day and bye. So yes, world, goodbye, fair world. God, what movie is that from? But goodbye, fair world. I bid you adieu. Until next time, remember, be kind, especially to yourself. Peace, love, and happiness, everybody. From Lady Rosemary, the anti-meek. Now, let's see. Do I go up here? Are you want to stop streaming?